I am very excited to be back.
Good to have you back.
Yeah, man. It's
good to have you back.
This is my number one love. I got 2 full-time jobs right now, but this is number one in my heart. So it's great to get back and doing some radio today with you. And you're off tomorrow, so we've got one day together this week. I'm off on Monday.
You're getting Cattles and Ramie for a day.
It's like, we can't stay together for more than like 2 days.
Is it 5 days of Cattles and Ramie next week? Is it 5 full days of Cattles? I don't think I have any.
Oh no, I'm out Monday and Friday.
All right.
and we got a short show on Wednesday, so it's going to be like 2.5 days of Cattles and Ramie next week. An interesting development today, Ramie, for the 49ers. Yeah, I said the 49ers. See, Deshaun Watson, his suspension has been extended. It is now 11 games. He gets fined $5 million. Here's the NFL Network's Ian Rappaport.
So now, after discussion, after months, after weeks, after negotiation, after a ruling, and then waiting for Peter C. Harvey to rule in place of Roger Goodell, it is now over. Deshaun Watson not going to take the NFL to court. The NFL not going to have to listen to these headlines over and over throughout the season. There is a settlement, 11 games, $5 million fine. Deshaun Watson should be back against his old team, the Houston Texans, in Week 13.
Yeah, so they say the Watson thing is over. We know it's not over. It's going to continue. People will start to, find different angles. They'll continue to talk about this situation, especially when he gets back. Can you imagine the coverage that first week when he returns to Houston, of all places? That's going to be a nightmare for him. But when we look at this through a 49ers prism, through that lens, you now have the Jimmy G option. Ramie, we've talked about it. I mean, I've talked about it ad nauseum for the past several months. The idea of Jimmy G, what's going to happen with Garoppolo. Is he going to be released? Is he going to be traded? We've said all along, Ramie, that the Niners have been waiting for an injury, somebody to go down. Well, this is not an injury. It's a suspension. And my question for you, if you were the Browns, do you pull the trigger on Jimmy Garoppolo now that Watson's suspension is 11 games?
I don't think so. Because why? You know what I mean? I'm bidding against myself. He's gonna be released before the end of the month, before his salary is guaranteed. There's nobody else who needs Jimmy Garoppolo. Even the Jets, they lost Zach Wilson. Do you really go out of your way to go and win a bidding war in free agency with the Browns for Jimmy Garoppolo when you have Joe Flacco? Same guy. You know what I mean?
Not much difference. It's not much difference.
It's basically the same guy. He's handsome Joe Flacco. That's what Jimmy Garoppolo is. So why? Like, and either you're bidding again. I'll take my chances that I can sign him when you release him at the end of the month. If there was another team out there that had a need for a quarterback and Jimmy Garoppolo was a fit, I might, if I'm the Browns, reach out for Jimmy Garoppolo right now. But there isn't. See, this is the issue with the Niners' philosophy and theory here, right? Oh, we'll just wait. And if we wait, somebody gets injured, that team will be desperate. They'll go out and they'll make a trade for Jimmy G. Not necessarily. Ramie, I 100% agree with you. If you're the Browns, if you're any other team, if you lose your starting quarterback for a month, 2 months, 3 months, whatever, the entire year, you still don't feel the urgency. What the Niners need is they actually need 2 or 3 guys to get hurt. They need 2 or 3 things to happen, 2 or 3 quarterbacks to go down, because then they could create leverage. They need a market. They don't need one team. They need a market to develop for somebody who needs not just a quarterback, but teams where Jimmy Garoppolo is a fit. Cleveland is a fit because they only need him for 11 games. He only needs 1 season or a good portion of 1 season to show other NFL teams he's still got it so he can go get paid again next year in free agency. And the system is similar to the one he's been running the last couple of years in San Francisco. It's not only the only team that might need a quarterback right now, it's the only fit for Jimmy Garoppolo right now.
Yeah, and if you're the Browns, you're going to make a deal. You're going to pay this guy $25 million, whatever is on the books. I don't think so. You're going to give up an asset or 2. I don't think so. If you're Cleveland, you sit back, you go, we'll wait a couple of weeks. Like, now you've gone so far. If you're the Niners, you've gone so far with this Garoppolo thing that now other teams feel even more confident in waiting things out, because not only do they know that there's no market, as you mentioned, Ramie, but let's not forget about what's come out recently. We'll talk about this more later on in the show, but this idea that Jimmy ghosted, quote unquote, the Niners staff and his teammates, and this idea that he's not maybe the best teammate that you might have thought he was, or as great of a teammate as you thought he was. So Now, if you're a team like the Browns, you look at Garoppolo and you not only say, well, why do I have to pull the trigger on that right now when there's zero urgency to do so? The Niners know they've got to let him go, because now you know, if you're the Browns, that the Niners, it's not only, oh, Trey Lance is our guy, it's the fact that they have apparently, reportedly had issues with Jimmy G. So now you look back, go, hey, you want that headache all year, or you're going to release him? And by the way, if I'm the Browns, do I want to bring that headache on? Because when Deshaun Watson comes back from suspension, he's the guy.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's no, you don't have, like, you've expressed some concern. I've heard others express some concern that Jimmy G creates some instability were you to keep him here with Trey Lance being a first-year starter, second year in the NFL, and you're going to have guys going, do we really have the right guy under center? I don't think that would be an issue in San Francisco, but you know it's not an issue in Cleveland. When you have, I mean, for all the off-field issues, and boy, are there some with Deshaun Watson. You don't have any quarterback controversy when you talk about what he can do versus what Jimmy Garoppolo can do. So I don't think you worry about that if you're Cleveland. You just don't. You don't have a need to go out and like I said, bid against yourself to get him right now. But there was a report last week that said that the Browns were gonna sort of see how this appeal played out, and maybe they would be interested in Jimmy G if they were going to be without Deshaun Watson more than the original 6-game suspension. So maybe there's some, I mean, we never really know, Nick, maybe there's some bluffing here. Maybe there are other teams. Maybe the Browns are hearing through the grapevine that there are other teams that would be interested in Jimmy Garoppolo if he were a free agent. So you want to work out the trade right now before he hits the market. But I, myself, and it seems like you, can't figure out where that market would be, and how it would develop from.
I mean, I don't see it. Cattles and Ramie, Sactown Sports. If you look at the league, I mean, it's very difficult to find opportunities that make sense, especially this late. See, here's the thing. Another issue with the Niners' philosophy and their theory and their approach with all of this. The longer you wait, the tougher it is for Garoppolo to just parachute into a football training camp in preseason and say, I'm ready. Like, if he's going to go to another team, if he's going to go to, the Steelers because they're not happy with Trubisky and Pickett, for just an example, right? A hypothetical. He's got to go into Pittsburgh, learn that system.
Trubisky and
quickly.
Pickett sounds like a buddy detective.
Okay. Trubisky and Pickett. Like a little cop show, a little cop music behind him. Well, like when you look at the situation, it's like if you're a team, you bring in Garoppolo. Number one, he's not very good. He's, again, to me, at average, quarterback at best. But he's an average guy. So if you bring him in, he's got to learn the system. You now have to find reps for him at camp in the final couple of weeks. Like, it is not a very good scenario for a team to bring him in.
This is why I said he should be playing in the preseason, Nick. And you vehemently, and many people did, disagree with me.
Yes.
But that's exactly why. I said from the start of training camp, 2 things need to happen for Jimmy Garoppolo to have some value. 1, somebody's quarterback situation needs to change. 2, people need to see Jimmy Garoppolo play football after shoulder surgery, to have any faith, to want to give up any stock, to want to give up any assets.
Do you think he wants to play football right now?
Who cares?
For the Niners?
He's under contract.
Yeah,
he's been
it
cleared by doctors, and you're not playing Trey Lance in weeks 2 and 4 of the preseason.
Ouch, my shoulder.
Okay. I mean, he could pull that.
I mean, this is a guy, let's not forget, Patriots players that played with him a few years back before that trade to San Francisco happened. Julian Edelman, Martellus Bennett.
I know the story.
Yeah, both those guys have come out and said, look, he quit on us.
Business decision.
Yeah, so he has a history of making business decisions. So in theory, playing him a quarter or two, sure, I could understand that as long as he's not taking reps away from Lance. But I don't know if he would be down with that. I don't know if you'd get pushback. I don't know if he'd say, again, my shoulder's a little cranky this week. I don't think I can go. And if you're the Niners, you can't question him.
I would sell it to him. Maybe they did as, hey, man, you want out? We want you out. This is the best way to get you out. We have to display you. Teams need to see that you can still throw the football after having shoulder surgery this offseason.
No doubt. That's the argument back if you're the Niners. And whether or not that would work, I don't know. He's got a powerful agent, same agent as Tom Brady, Don Yee. So, he might have some conversations with teams around the league and might know more. But the issue here, again, it's been the case for the last few months, and I think that some Niners fans might have thought there's going to be a magic elixir, something's going to happen. I think if you're the Browns or any other team that might be quarterback needy, you're waiting this thing out. And you're saying, look, you've got nowhere to go with this guy. And he has not played for you at all in the preseason. He's not going to. The reports about him not even having a playbook, everybody knows he's like persona non grata in this Niners organization. So why is anybody going to rush? It doesn't make any sense to me. So again, unless he had a market, and if he had a market, don't you think he'd be gone already? So I don't think this Watson suspension is going to make that much of a difference unless the Browns feel like, no, we have to. We are desperate to get somebody in here because they need to learn the system over the next couple of weeks. Then maybe they pull the trigger. But I think they're fine with Jacoby Brissett starting the first couple of games and saying to themselves, hey, man, if Jimmy becomes available, we'll go after him at that point.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I don't see the market. Maybe there are other teams out there. I see Lasario commenting on the YouTube page. He says Jimmy to the Giants, maybe the Giants, because from everything we're hearing, Daniel Jones looks like an absolute disaster.
Shocker.
In training camp in his first season.
He's not good.
Under Brian Dable. So maybe the Giants, maybe there is more of a market than we're giving credit for, Nick. But again, it's not just a team that needs a quarterback. It's a team that needs a Jimmy G and a situation where Jimmy G would want to go, where he can go and put himself on display so he can get the big bucks a year from now in free agency again for a team that really needs a quarterback.
And don't forget, it's also a money thing. Like, yeah, the Giants might not be happy with their quarterback situation right now, but you've got to pay Jimmy Garoppolo if you trade for him the $25 million, unless he comes to an agreement to play for less. And I don't think he has much urgency to do that right now this second. No. So, it's also a money thing. You got to pay Daniel Jones. You got to pay Jimmy Garoppolo. It's a lot of money to pay if you're the Giants, and I don't know if the Mars would want to do that. Your thoughts, 916-339-1140 is the text line. The phone line is 1-800-920-1140. The website, sactownsports.com. Do you think if you were the Browns, would you pull the trigger on Jimmy Garoppolo, or would you wait this thing out? We want your thoughts on that. Again, text line, phone line, also the YouTube page, youtube.com, Sactown Sports 1140. We'll get your thoughts on Jimmy G and the Browns as a possibility. Also, is the Deshaun Watson extended suspension fair? We'll get to that in more in 90 seconds.
You want more Kings coverage? Sactown Sports 1140 is giving it to you.
You'll be watching.
It's the new spot for local sports talk in the afternoon. Cattles and Ramie. Sactown Sports 1140.
I don't want to get violent physically.
Please don't.
But I don't know what we need to do to get people to subscribe to YouTube. So what are we going to do? Do we have to pander? Do we have to beg? Do we have to give away prizes?
I was going to say, do we have stuff to give away?
What is
it always helps with free stuff? Always helps.
Everybody might have to get violent.
Everybody watches. Subscribe. All you got to do is just click that little button. Subscribe.
When you say get violent, do you mean like you and me fight on the YouTube page to the death for clicks?
I don't think that would help.
I'd subscribe to that.
I don't think that would help.
Cattles versus Ramie.
Be like Costanza. Do you fight like Costanza or do you fight Ramie? You just throwing slaps around. Yeah, so I don't know what we got to do, but YouTube, Sactown Sports 1140, like and subscribe. We were just talking about Jimmy Garoppolo and this idea of maybe he'll end up in Cleveland now that Deshaun Watson's suspension has been expanded to 11 games to go along with a $5 million fine. Let's dig into, and we'll get back to the Niners' thoughts. We'll get back to some other things. We'll definitely get to the Kings and the schedule coming up in a few minutes.
Oh, yeah,
but
you weren't here for the big
I was here, in Sacramento. I just wasn't in the studio.
Right, yeah.
I was feverishly writing down the pregame start time so I could get back to our partners in radio to let them know what's going to be preempted and what's not going to be preempted. That was my day.
Can I get that calendar too?
No.
Okay.
No. Just take you see the schedule that was released?
Yeah.
Just backtrack an hour and a half, and there you go. 90 minutes back from the tip time.
Oh, okay.
That's when we're done. That's when we're done. So
sounds good.
But I did want to talk about the Watson suspension for at least a few minutes because it's the giant story in sports today. He's been again suspended 11 games, $5 million fine. This was a settlement between the NFL and Watson's side, which is the PA, the Players Association. Here was the NFL Network's Tom Pelissero on why Watson said yes to this deal.
He wanted to get to a point where there was finality. This was not going into the court system. This was not dragging on for months into the season. There's not a possibility this could even drag on into 2023 if he ended up being suspended indefinitely. So they now have that. They know he can be back in the building in early October. He can be on the practice field in November and play on December 4th at Houston against his old team, the Texans. In terms of everything else, these are all things that, of course, we're going to talk about. It's going to be talked about by the public and by fans. But for the Browns, again, this was the day that they were trying to get to. They now know what the landscape is for Deshaun Watson moving forward, and they expect that if he follows his treatment plan, of course, because that is required under the terms of this agreement with the 11-game suspension and the $5 million fine, that they are going to have what they believe is their franchise quarterback, for better or worse, and everything that comes with it on December 4th.
Treatment plan. That means Watson, according to Adam Schefter, who tweeted this out a few hours ago, he has to comply with the evaluation and treatment recommendations of a third-party behavioral expert to be reinstated. His reinstatement is contingent upon his compliance with the treatment plan. If he does not comply, his reinstatement could be delayed, plus further discipline. Ramie, your thoughts on this expanded suspension and now fine for Deshaun Watson?
I mean, it's I keep saying, like, I don't know what's the proper punishment. You know what I mean? I don't know what makes this right. He's not going to jail for any of this.
Correct.
Because no criminal charges were pressed. He's settled all but one of the cases now. Am I mistaken? I think it's all but one of the cases now. So it's more games, 11 games. Again, I don't know if that's the right amount of games. I'm glad there is some financial component to it. It's still gross that he's going to get all the guaranteed money that was in the contract.
Yeah, let's explain that for a second. Some more specifics. If he got suspended for 12 games, he wouldn't have been able to toll a full NFL season. So because it's 11 games, he tolls this season, which is his $1 million base, which means he gets his $46 million or whatever next year.
Right, exactly. So that's still a little gross because that contract was basically signed because they knew he was a sex offender. Yeah. He was a sexual predator. You know what I mean? That's the only reason, allegedly, a sexual predator. It's like he got a parachute for what he did to land softly from all this financially, regardless of what suspension came down, as long as it wasn't 12 games or more. Most importantly, the counseling part of it. I know a lot of people look at that and they roll their eyes and go, mandated counseling, blah, blah, blah. I don't know if Deshaun Watson would have gone and gotten the counseling on his own had they not mandated it, but I don't think in cases like this, just throwing a guy under a prison somewhere, casting him off from society is the best thing to do. And most experts say that rehabilitating these people who do these types of things is the best thing for everybody involved. So I'm glad that's a component to it. I'm glad there's a financial component to it. It's more games. It's still just gross that he's getting that big guaranteed contract.
I think we'd all agree, or at least I would hope we'd all agree, that no suspension in this situation was going to feel just, right? I don't think, even if it was for a full year, I don't know if everybody would have been like, all right, a full year, that feels just about right. You're going to walk away from this whole ordeal and situation, these allegations, not feeling good about any of it. Like whether it's a 6-game suspension, 11 games, 17 games, whatever it is, nothing is going to feel just because of the nature of the allegations and because of what other people have said. I mean, the lead investigator has said she believes the story of the victims. The judge, Sue Robinson, came out and said Watson lied, and she believes he showed, predatory behavior. So the people who are professionals that have dealt with these kinds of cases over and over and over and over again, they agree that Deshaun Watson did something wrong here and that he was a predator towards these women. So it's out there, and nothing's going to feel just. The other thing I think of is the power of the Players Association. Like I see people, and they keep doing this. Can you stop doing this? Can you stop tweeting out suspensions of other players for other violations? We went through this a couple of weeks ago when the first suspension was levied. The other suspensions have nothing to do with it. It's apples and oranges in a number of different ways. Yes, what Deshaun Watson did is horrendous. It's awful. Can't say enough bad words about it. But as we talked about a few weeks ago, there was nothing specific in the conduct policy that allowed the NFL or Judge Sue Robinson to say, hey, man, you're banished for a year. So there was language in leeway for those other things. So when, Calvin Ridley gets popped for gambling on a few of his team's games on FanDuel or whatever, he can get a big-time suspension because it's in the books, and that's how this works. It's collectively bargained. So the players,
it is crazy, and I don't know how this got collectively bargained. Josh Gordon has lost, I think the number I saw today was 76 games for smoking some weed.
Yeah.
And Deshaun Watson has 11 for being a sexual predator of upwards of 24 women.
Yeah.
Like that is like, I mean, you're right. Like those two, that doesn't set precedents. Like Josh Gordon and his weed stuff doesn't set precedents for Deshaun Watson by any means, but that is wild, man. Like that is not balancing the scales of justice when you look at those two suspensions.
And people, I know some out there, and I know Tony Busby, the lawyer of all 24 women who have accused Deshaun Watson of this just awful behavior. I know Busby was like, this says a lot about Roger Goodell. He's a paper tiger, blah, 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 blah. Look, Roger Goodell works for the owners. The point is the NFL, and I said this going back weeks ago, they're not going to want to go to court with the NFLPA. It's going to get messy. It's going to get ugly. It's going to impact the next CBA. And whether or not, they should have done what they've done, the point is, they decided that the future of the league is more important than one guy. No matter how horrendous the allegations are, that was the decision. And it was because they have to get back to the table eventually with the Players Association so they could all keep playing football and all can keep making money. That's what it was all about. So stop with the other suspensions. And I only hope that the vitriol that we saw during that first preseason game towards Watson continues when he gets back, and I think it is going to continue.
Do you want to tell the people what they were chanting?
I don't think we can. I don't want to get fired today. 916-339-1140 is the text line. Phone number is 1-800-920-1140. Not today, maybe tomorrow. Sactownsports.com is the website. We preview the Keegan measuring stick games coming up next.
Cattles and Ramie. Sactown Sports 1140.
Sacramento weather is brought to you
Sports 1140.
Yeah, I'm laughing. I'm laughing. We'll get to Keegan measuring stick games in a minute, looking at all the rookie matchups out of the top 5 or 6 that Keegan Murray will face now that the schedule is out for the Kings. But we have to mention for a minute or two here what happened during the break. So Ramie told me that his girlfriend Emily's coming into town tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
He's taking tomorrow off. He's all fired up. They get this weekend planned.
3-day weekend.
And he says,
wine country.
He says, we're going to wine country. I said, oh,
Picnics,
no kidding.
Hiking.
He said, yeah.
Maybe jump in the lake.
Did he learn from your mistake with
Cool
wine country?
Oh, wait. You're gonna enjoy that.
Okay.
So I said, where's the wine country you're going to? He goes, Clear Lake. Now, I didn't know anything about Clear Lake.
I don't know anything about Clear Lake. You guys know anything about Clear
so
Lake?
Yeah, wine country.
I wouldn't consider that wine country.
Fishing country.
All right.
So I Googled Clear Lake.
Is there wine there? Because
Wait, are you going to go up there with a girlfriend
Yes.
and come back alone? Because if that's the plan, okay, that makes sense.
no, we plan on both returning. Yeah.
So I Googled I Googled Clear Lake and San Francisco Chronicle, August 2nd. Here's the headline. Toxic algae in this Northern California lake is corrupting drinking water and causing horrendous smells.
I hate everything, man. Can I just tell you? I hate everything and everyone.
Before you make the move of,
I didn't book it.
why would you go to Clear Lake?
I
You
didn't
gotta at
book
least
it.
ask us first, bro.
The Verbo looks nice.
Man,
You're
you're
bringing us brunch. There's wine. For restaurants.
The Verbo looks nice.
They got you, Ramie. You got catfished.
I'm anti-Teo'd. Give me a Netflix special next year, you and Emily. The Verbo looked nice. It didn't smell good.
He's gonna have a special next year.
It might look good. I don't know if it smells good.
I didn't book it. I don't know anything about this place.
I'd say you're not gonna go swimming. He's like, oh, she wanted to go swimming.
I didn't want to go swimming. I don't go in wild bodies of water.
Gosh.
I go in oceans, lakes.
Well,
I don't do that.
good luck to you, sir. I'm sorry. I said the bearer of bad news, but at least I'm giving you fair warning, you and Emily, that things might not go as planned. Anyway, let's talk about the Kings.
Why are you so happy about
I'm
this?
not happy. I'm not happy. It's been a long few days, Ramie. You needed a little bit of cognitive relief. Maybe at your expense today. Can you get a refund?
No, we're going.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, we're going.
All right. I want a full report when you get back. I want text.
I mean, the Verbo is nice.
I want text from when you're there.
It's a nice place.
I want to know it's good. You gotta let me know it's good. All right, let's talk about the Kings schedule here. Let's talk about it from a Keegan Murray standpoint. The expectations we know through the roof after his summer league play. We go back to after the draft when Monty McNair, when he was questioned about why it was Murray at number 4. Monty McNair, he was strong-willed up at that podium, and here's what he said at the time.
You know, I think at the end of the day, with the 4th pick, after exploring all our options, we felt extremely comfortable that the best player available was Keegan Murray, and we are extremely excited to welcome Keegan to the Kings family.
Best player available at number 4. So I look at these games, Ramie, this year against teams that have top 5 or 6 picks, right? We have to include Jaden Ivey for obvious reasons, right? So you look at the top 5 picks, you get Ivey there at 5, and these are the measuring stick games. I would say before we get into the matchups and when they play against some of these other premier rookies, what is your general overall confidence level, Ramie, in Keegan going into this year?
That he is what we heard Monty McNair say right there, the best player in this year's draft.
Well, available.
The best player available in this year's draft.
Yeah, so at the time when they drafted. So I don't know if Monty's saying he's better than Paolo Banchero.
Sure.
But, you know, are you confident in Keegan?
I am.
I am too. I think we all are. I think
the Summer League went a long way, man. And maybe I shouldn't put that much stock in the Summer League, but the Summer League went a long way with some of the things that he showed me.
And I don't think any of us expects 25 points a night from Keegan, but I do think we're confident that he's going to impact the game right away. He's going to impact this team right away, and that's something we talked about on draft night. I thought he was the guy that will make the biggest impact the quickest out of this draft. So let's look at some of these matchups. Let's start with the Jaden Ivey games. So they play Detroit on November 20th. here in Sacramento. So Ivy will be here in Sacramento at Golden 1 right before Thanksgiving. And then they play at Detroit on December 16th. That kind of stinks because that means the Keegan, Jaden, Ivy storyline as far as going against each other, and they're not going to be playing against each other on the floor. Obviously, Ivy's a guard, Murray's a forward. But this, tit for tat, Ivy versus Keegan, at least going against each other in the same game, it's done within 2 months of the season. Like the season tips off in the middle of October. The last time we'll see Ivy is the middle of December.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed in that myself. All the big rookie matchups.
Yeah.
Keegan Murray test matchups against the other rookies. They're all pretty early in the season.
They are. And, when you look at it, the biggest question to me, when we watch those games, Keegan and Jaden on the same floor, the roles, right? We've talked about this. I think Ivy is going to have the basketball in his hands a lot, along with Cade Cunningham. I think he's going to be asked to do a lot. I don't think Keegan, as far as scoring-wise, is going to be asked to do a ton. I think he's going to have to defend. He's going to have to rebound. But I really believe when you watch these two guys play against each other on their respective teams, you will clearly see the difference between the approach by the Kings and by the Pistons. And I also think, Ramie, that will give you a clear idea as to why Murray was always seen by people as the best fit with the team.
I'm not going to put, too much stock or much stock at all in just one matchup between Keegan Murray and Jaden Ivey or anybody else.
Right.
But the Kings kind of need for Keegan Murray to be, over the course of this season, you'd like to see it in these matchups, but over the course of this season, they need him to look like the best, most ready NBA player in the class right now, don't they? For that draft to not look like a miss, because if Jaden Ivey has a better rookie season than Keegan Murray does, people are going to be going, look, see, we were told that Jaden Ivey might have a better ceiling, but Keegan Murray was more NBA ready. Now it's not even he's more NBA ready. Jaden Ivey is a better player right now is what people are going to be saying by the end of the season.
I hope not a lot of people say that because, again, I do think it's the discussion we had going back a month or two ago about Keegan and the expectations and what role he's going to fit on this team. I don't want to look at just the counting stats, the points, rebounds, and assists and say, oh, well, Jaden's averaging 19 points a night and Keegan's averaging 14. Ipso facto, Jaden's had the better rookie season. It's all about the context and how they were used. Secondly, we got Paolo Banchero, first pick in the draft. So Paolo will play twice, obviously, against the Kings. One game on November 5th. So within 15 days, you'll have Jaden Ivey and Paolo's first games against the Kings. That'll be fun to watch. And then Paolo in Orlando, they're done on January 9th. So he's done within 2.5 months.
Mm-hmm.
And now this is a fun matchup. I almost look forward to this matchup more than the Jaden Ivey matchup because you will see Banchero playing against Keegan. You will see those guys defending each other,
right? Which
to me is more fascinating.
I'm looking forward to that.
I think Paolo's the best rookie in this draft. I do. After seeing the versatility within his game that we weren't so sure that he had before the draft, what he was able to do, and I know it's Summer League, but what he was able to do, facilitate the offense, transition. Defensively, I still think he's got some major issues, but I think he ends up being the top player in this draft at the end of the season. I think it'll be he versus Keegan for Rookie of the Year.
That Kings Magic game in the Summer League was almost unanimously, by most people's standard, the best game in the Summer League, the one that went to overtime. Now they ended up on the wrong end of that one, but you saw a little bit of what both those guys could do.
It's fantastic. So the mano-a-mano opportunities will be fun to watch between those two guys. Chet Holmgren. Hey, Chet. 3 games. So Chet will play 3 games against the Kings this year. They have a back-to-back in late February. Again, much like the matchup versus Paolo, this will be interesting because I could guarantee you that Chet will defend Keegan multiple times, and I think Keegan will end up having to draw the Chet card at least a few times. So that is more of a mano-a-mano back-and-forth matchup.
And again,
between
in the
those
Summer League, dude, he muscled Chet Holmgren.
He did.
A couple of times.
A lot of people did.
Just grown-manned him.
A lot of people did, and that's the question about Chet. Nobody questions his skill level. It's whether or not he's going to be able to battle.
I said it during the Summer League.
dude.
I think I could back down Chet Holmgren. I think I could back him down.
Yeah, put a little bit in the
rim.
chest.
Yeah.
A little elbow in the chest, little shoulder in the chest. And then finally, does anybody care about Jabari Smith Jr.? I'm not saying he's not good, but he seems like
he's not a lightning rod.
No.
People talk about him the way that they do the other rookies.
Like when you think about the rookie matchups and Keegan going against these other rookies, I feel like Jabari, even though he could end up being the best player in this draft 3 years from now, but I just feel like the excitement or the interest in him is below Chet, Paolo, and Jaden Ivey. I think he's like, I don't think anybody's super jacked and pumped to watch.
You don't hear a lot
Jabari
about him.
Smith.
There's not a lot of hype around him. Not a lot of buzz.
And of course, don't forget Jabari. That's a nationally televised game for the Kings.
I don't know if I've seemed distracted during this segment, but because you guys started making me question this weekend.
You're looking at pictures of Clear Lake?
I'm looking at the Verbo that we're staying. It's lovely. It's literally on a wine farm.
I'm sure.
Guys, how are you telling me it's not wine country? It's on a wine farm.
Oh, a wine farm.
Little farmhouse. They make brunch for you. It's beautiful. This looks beautiful.
Ramie, we're not saying the Verbo, the place that you're actually staying.
Well, yeah, it's a whole property, though.
I got you, but what I'm
So
saying
It's a compound.
It's like hills to hike and whatnot. It's a whole thing.
That's what Clear Lake is. That's not wine country, brother.
It's a wine compound.
Yeah, there you go.
I hate you guys.
Athletes and commercials, some good, some bad. We're going to have some fun with them coming up.
It's Cattles. It's Ramie. Sactown Sports 1140.
Sacramento weather is brought to you by Quick Quack Car Wash.
Sports 1140.
So the NIL deals in college football and college sports, good thing. These young athletes getting paid some scuttle, good thing. But we knew that with all of these new NIL deals, that there would be some interesting endorsements that came from that. And
Dude, I love this so much.
We'll give you an example.
I love this way too much.
We'll give you an example. So Verlad found this today. The Action Network tweeted out Bijan Robinson, who is one of, if not the best running backs in college football. He will be one of the best this year. He was one of the best last year. Just ask JJ. He knows all about him. So his name is Bijan Robinson. And so he is a.k.a. Bijan Mustardson. He has his own mustard line as part of an NIL deal. It's called Bijan Mustardson for Bijan Robinson. Fantastic stuff.
That's outstanding.
Fantastic stuff from whoever. Who do we know who made?
You know the mustard company that made this?
Yeah. Who makes this mustard? Bijan Mustardson.
We doing live Googling? Right?
Yes, we are doing live Googling. Let me see. Condiment company, deal with a genius slogan. An evac company in Nebraska.
Okay. Good to know.
Oh no, that's another one we'll get to later on. The Coldest Crawford. Trying to find a Bijan. Gourmet Dijon mustard. Austin, Texas is on the front of this thing.
It doesn't say who. It doesn't say the who is the maker.
Yeah, it
the
just says
company.
the face of a condiment company. You couldn't Athlon Sports. You couldn't take the extra step.
Whoever is the condiment company, they're not getting their money's worth for making the Bijan mustard.
Bijan Mustardson is a trademark. It was an application, trademark application of Callan LLC.
All right.
So there you have it.
Did you happen to see the phrase on the bottle?
The phrase on the bottle.
I didn't
Hold on
see
one
that.
second. I
What
got
is
to pull
it?
this
Their
back up.
slogan?
Yeah, that's their slogan.
I didn't see
Hold
it.
on. Let me see. I'm
Yeah, you got to go and see it.
Okay.
It's like a touchdown. No, I'm not going to say that.
You can say that.
Like, what is it?
You can say that.
It doesn't make any sense.
It's like a touchdown in your mouth. Bijan Mustardson. All right, let's get to the snake draft. All right, so with the Bijan Mustardson story, it got us thinking. Most memorable athlete endorsements. Most memorable athlete endorsements, of course. You can tweet at us at Nick C Radio, at Ramie is tweeting. You can hit us up, YouTube, Sactown Sports 1140. What was your favorite most memorable athlete endorsement? The draft order is Chris, JJ, Ramie, and then I close it out at 4. So, Chris, you start us off.
Okay, when I first thought of this, it's the first commercial that came to mind. I've probably seen the commercial a million times. I know you guys have too. I'm going with Fred McGriff, Tom Amansky's baseball defensive drill.
That is a great
It's
one.
not on my list because I forgot about it. That is a fantastic.
But when I say that
one.
name, the commercial immediately comes to your mind.
They're throwing the baseball on the buckets, the trash cans that are
good.
on the ground.
It easily went like 20 years.
Dude, the hat Fred McGriff wears.
Yes.
In that commercial.
Is it like just blue and it's got like almost like
And the front
straight-
of it is just, it's huge and it just goes straight up. It's like he's wearing a billboard with a bill. It's
that
amazing.
is awesome, Chris.
So good.
All right, JJ,
Just won the
second.
draft. He just won the draft.
He did.
The three popped in my mind, and memorable for reasons of maybe not the best, or they're different, or just strange. The first one that comes to my mind is rest in peace. We just lost him, Mr. Tony Saragusa, and his Depends.
Tony Siragusa's Depends.
He did do Depends.
He did Depends. He had a Depends commercial, and it always caught me because it's like, okay, Tony was on the sideline for so many years of Fox, and of course working with them. I always used to tease him, man, what you must have got paid a lot of money to endorse Depends.
I was going to say,
he did.
Question is the checks.
Yes.
All right, Ramie, you're next.
I wasn't even alive when these commercials ran, but it's iconic. I think it's one of the most famous athlete ads ever. Joe Namath and pantyhose.
The pantyhose.
Legs.
The pantyhose ads.
Which, by the way, I've talked to guys who, played for the Packers and before Under Armour and all this heat trapping and moisture wicking stuff, they'd wear pantyhose under their uniforms because trapped in the heat.
You got to do what you got to do.
Out there on the frozen tundra.
Under Armour saved them.
Yes, sir.
All right, I'm going back to back with two classics. Might not be, as fun, but I think two absolute classics. First of all, MJ and Gatorade, like Mike. Right? Come on.
I have that on cassette somewhere.
When I think of
Mike's song.
Yeah, when I think of endorsements and athletes, I immediately go like Mike. Want to be like Mike. I go right to it immediately.
Okay.
The other one that I go to immediately is Bo Knows with Nike.
Oh, that's a good one.
Bo Jackson's Bo Knows series. So give me MJ Gatorade like Mike and give me Bo Knows from Nike.
Back around to me now, right?
Back to you, Ron.
Can I take another Michael Jordan ad campaign?
Of course you can.
The Mars Blackman.
Yes.
Got to be the shoes.
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 Got to be the shoes. Give me Mars Blackman.
I mean, you start to really think about MJ and this list, like it
could all be MJ.
Obvious why he was the face of the league and world renowned. All right, so we go to JJ.
Yeah, I'm going with someone who also was in there. I'm looking at the list. I'm like, my goodness, what happened? I'm going to rest in peace Kobe and the Sprite commercial. It is about a lot of people talk about the Sprite commercial as Kobe really putting him on, blast for taking the next steps of signing with Nike and becoming a worldwide brand. It's the Sprite commercial for me for Nike. With Kobe.
Chris, back to back.
I can't believe this came back to me. So
there's a lot of good ones.
I'm going to take this right now. John Madden, Tinactin.
Tough acting, Tinactin.
Boom,
boom.
That's on my list. That's on my list.
Tough acting, Tinactin. Boom. Whenever I hear the boom, that's the first thing that comes
to mind. And you have the telestrator.
Yes.
And I don't even know if it's for
the
commercial.
Is it for like athlete's foot? Is it for?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Tough acting, Tinactin. And it's really
it's the foot is on fire.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it's really the line. So like just the tough acting Tinactin is a great. It's better than Bijan Mustardson. I'll say that. All right, Chris, you got one more.
Okay, my final one is more current.
More current.
And it's once again, you see it 1,000 times. I'm going with Frank Thomas, the
Eugenics.
big unit with eugenics.
I was going that way too.
Wait, why does Doug Flutie get the short end?
Yeah,
Doug Flutie's part of it too.
I know, but like the first thing I see is Big Hurt and eugenics.
He's like, trust me, your lady's gonna like it too. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
And she's standing right there.
Yeah, she's like,
dude, you're being creepy, bro. You're being a little creepy.
Stop being so weird. Stop it, please.
Whose draft is it?
Hi, JJ.
JJ.
Yeah, I'm finishing with something that was before my time as well, but it's something that I grew up on as a huge boxing guy. Everybody I felt like I grew up watching this, talked about this. I'm going Muhammad Ali and his roach traps.
Oh, yeah, the roach traps.
Muhammad Ali and
roach traps.
Pecan roach traps.
That's amazing.
What do you want to endorse? You want to endorse roach traps? I'm in.
Sure, I guess.
Why wouldn't I?
I mean, I could have a candy bar named after me, but yeah, roach traps.
It's an outrageous ask.
He's the most famous man in the world at that point. He's advertising roach traps. What is going on?
He's like,
what timeline is this?
Civil rights extraordinaire, right?
He's literally
best boxer of all time.
He's literally the most famous man in the world. Wherever he goes, the streets flood to come out and follow Muhammad Ali. Wherever he goes, he's doing roach trap commercials.
How many people knew of him because of the roach trap commercials? All right, Ramie, your last one.
I'm trying to pick between two. I'm just gonna go with Mike Ditka and Cialis. Remember the Mike Ditka Cialis commercials? Yep. Just throwing a football through a tire.
I'm trying to forget.
right,
the most blatant symbolism ever.
YouTube. My guy Dimitri said Jordan's cologne. That's a good one.
Yeah.
I had that, by the way.
One for each ring.
Who all had
6 sprays.
Who all here had
each ring?
Who all here had the Jordan cologne?
I did.
Yeah, I did too.
100%.
Tony Dogs, Pete Rose, Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
Run DMG with a wrestling favorite. Snap into a Slim Jim.
Jim.
Oh yeah, with Macho Man, Randy Savage. Larry Bird. How about I got a number of them. Larry Bird, MJ, the McDonald's commercials,
Those
the
are
showdown.
good. Yeah.
Discount double check, Aaron Rodgers, State Farm.
Yeah.
That had a vicious run for a couple of years.
It did.
Chris Paul.
Mean Joe Green, the Coca-Cola commercial.
That's a really good one. Yeah.
Baker Mayfield's At Home with Progressive.
Actually, I really like those.
Sir Charles, I'm Not a Role Model.
Those are good too.
What about Joe Montana with the shape-ups?
Shape Ups.
The two that were on my list that we didn't get to was Grandmama, Larry Johnson.
Of course.
For me, Bob Uecker and the Miller Lite, less filling,
Oh,
more
yeah.
taste commercials.
Yeah.
Those are great.
Also, Lil Penny. Remember Lil Penny?
Little Penny was
Oh, that was great.
Troy Polamalu, Head and Shoulders.
Head and Shoulders, yeah.
And last but not least, O.J. Simpson, Isotoners.
Oh,
And Hertz. Remember running through the airport?
And Hertz.
Yeah.
The Hertz one was good.
do you guys remember Ray Lewis and his Snuggie?
What?
No.
What did you just say?
I'm immediately Googling it.
Yes, Ray Lewis
What?
was endorsed a Snuggie. It was
Get
like,
out of here.
I just looked at this. He did.
RL52 Snuggie.
Come on,
What?
man.
It's on eBay.
Yes.
$40.
Come on, go get it. Ramie, take it to Clear Lake.
I got a Snuggie already.
My goodness. All right, coming up, we'll tell you why.
No one
If you
reacted.
thought Jimmy G was a great teammate, well, you might have been dead wrong.
Cattles and Ramie. Sactown Sports 1140.
Nobody protects you from mayhem like Allstate. You hear that? I'm a torrential downpour.
Just two guys rubbing elbows, talking sports, and lots of other stuff.
Always keep you on edge. That's really crazy interesting.
Saddles Ramie, Sactown Sports, 1140.
All right, so Jimmy G's reputation before this offseason, what would you say it was, Ramie? What did people think of Jimmy G before this offseason?
First and foremost, handsome, right?
Oh, yes.
Right?
Devilishly handsome.
You get lost in those eyes.
Subway.
You can just get
Subway.
lost in those eyes. There was Subway commercials. I think outside of the Martellus Bennett thing, I think he had a pretty good reputation.
Yeah.
Among most fans.
I think people would say great teammate, right? Even when I talked about him, I said, look, above average quarterback on some days, most days, he's an average quarterback. That's who he is on the field. But I had tremendous respect for how Garoppolo took care of his business off the field from what we had heard, right? He was somebody who always said the right thing in front of the cameras. He handled the Trey Lance situation last year with some impressive grace. And then this offseason happened. Martellus Bennett comes out and dumps on him. Julian Edelman comes out and kind of dumps on him, confirms what Bennett said, how he quit on New England. He was worried about his next contract. Then Garoppolo did not help himself, coming out and saying, there's no way I would ever do that ever again, what he did last season, and, coexist with Trey Lance. And now we're getting all of these reports about how Garoppolo, for the last few years, has apparently ghosted.
Since he got here.
Yeah.
Since his introductory press conference.
Apparently has ghosted coaching staff and teammates. And when the season is over, especially, he gone. And you don't see him, you don't hear from him. And these reports, I think the first person to bring this up was Mike Silver, going back a few days ago. And then Chris Sims. Chris Sims jumped on the pile.
You hear it from everybody. I've heard it from ex-coaches who have moved on and just gone, yeah, it's weird. The organizations tried to reach out to him times and explain things to him, and they can't get a hold of him, to the point where I think they've had to drive to his house and knock on the door and be like, hello, are you alive? Are you there? So, yeah, I think that's why there's the 49er fan base that wants, why are we getting rid of Jimmy Garoppolo? I think there's more than just the play on the field at hand here. And, yeah, I think a lot of the NFL knows these stories a little bit. And I think that's why maybe, we've had some teams kind of drag their feet and not sure if they really want to go all in on the Jimmy Garoppolo trade.
Before I ask you the bigger question, can I just ask you, why does all of this come out now?
I asked the same question.
Chris Sims is like, I think everybody's known this. I've known this for.
We have not known this.
Why hasn't anyone said this before? Why wasn't anyone saying this when he was the starting quarterback of the team?
I said to JJ a couple days ago that when I first read that Michael Silver story about him literally leaving, saying, I can't wait to get to all the hard work of being the starting quarterback of the 49ers, and then literally waited a long time to get to the hard work, went home.
I can't wait to start doing the hard work, ... in about 3 months.
Very much could wait. He showed the ability to wait. And so, and I said to JJ, when I first read that story out, my reaction was, okay, I've only been here 2 months or so. This has to be something that has been talked about, that's been reported before. And JJ was like, no, man, I'm hearing about this just like you're hearing about this. This is the first time that anybody has reported something like this.
I just hate when this happens. And it happens a lot now when all of a sudden reporters say, we knew this. Windhorst did that about the conversations with Kevin Durant and Jaylen Brown, and that happened weeks ago. Then why aren't you reporting this stuff? If you have this information, it is your job to report it and talk about it. Now Chris Sims is like, we've heard this. They can't even go to his house and find him. Where have you been, Chris? Where have you been the last few years? But here's my bigger question, Ramie. After this offseason and after these most recent reports about Jimmy G ghosting people, do you feel differently about him now than you did about a month ago?
Yeah, I do. I've been pretty pro Jimmy G since I got here, and saying, why not keep him around? Having a backup quarterback of that caliber isn't a bad thing, and I don't think it does anything to hinder Trey Lance's growth and development as a quarterback. And if things don't work out with Trey Lance, or there's an injury and you have a Jimmy Garoppolo as an insurance policy, that's not a terrible thing to have. I got to back off that just a little bit now, knowing that that's his work ethic, that's his MO, to just disappear and be unable to get a hold of this guy, much less like, I understand work-life balance, man, and getting away and, you know what I mean, unplugging. I get that, and that's important.
Right.
These guys put in intense work and intense hours,
no doubt,
to do what they do. But there's a line that it seems Jimmy G has crossed when it comes to that work-life balance of people got to make sure he's alive by banging on his door.
I've never been a big fan of him, and I'm even less of a fan of him now. Like, if you tell me Garoppolo, who again to me is an average quarterback for the most part, he'll have every once in a while a flash, but for the most part, he's an average quarterback who was in a great system with a great run game, a good offensive line, a fantastic defense, and a really good coaching staff. You tell me that average quarterback also lacks some work ethic, then that really bothers me, because it's like, okay, so he's not just average because that's his ceiling. Like, he's getting the most out of his talent, smaller school guy. No, because now you could argue he's an average quarterback because he couldn't care less.
Yeah.
And so you have to work to be great. I don't remember who said this. I think it was Larry Bird, but somebody said years ago, NBA player, the difference between a good NBA player and a great NBA player is work ethic. Like, you have so much talent when you make the NBA. You can make yourself that much better if you just could work on your game nonstop. Now, I do think some guys are just more naturally and women more naturally gifted. But the idea is, man, you got to work. And that was the whole thing with Kyler Murray going back a few weeks ago, this whole study habits thing, which was weird. So you're an average quarterback, and apparently you're cool with being an average quarterback.
You know what doesn't add up to me?
What's that?
How does a guy who operates like this survive so long playing for a Bill Belichick? Because there was a story last week, Nick, about I forget the offensive lineman's name, who was late for practice one morning and literally got into a car accident on purpose so that he didn't have to deal with Bill Belichick. Like, that shows you like how strict and how much of an iron fist this dude rules with when it comes to your time and how much you're putting into the job and your work ethic. And how does he last so long under Bill Belichick with that way of operating?
Maybe he changed when he got to San Francisco because he knew he had the keys. Maybe he was on his quote-unquote best behavior as the backup quarterback, because I would ask, how could Tom Brady not rub off on him, right? He was Brady's backup quarterback. Here's Brady at the age of 45 getting ready to play another season, and Brady has just nonstop work ethic. Up until right now, because something's going on personally, which I don't know what's up with that.
Is there something going on personally?
I don't know. That's the story that's being thrown out there. Whether or not you believe it, who knows? But to me, like, the best scenario when you have a QB1 is that QB1 is a leader of men. And how can you be a leader of men when you don't work? Like, you're supposed to set the example. You're supposed to be the guy in there like 5 a.m. until 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. watching film and going to that's when you're the quarterback, you make the most money, you have the most responsibility, you're supposed to take the most accountability, and you're supposed to be the guy that is in there working all the time. And so I think this is a testament to the rest of that football team, and I think it's a testament to Kyle Shanahan, frankly, because if this guy was QB1 as you made a run to the Super Bowl and you were a bad fourth quarter away from winning that Super Bowl, that says an awful lot with the ability of Shanahan and that coaching staff and his teammates to deal with this guy because he comes across as a diva.
My reaction was the same as yours, Nick. Like, all this time, we just thought Jimmy couldn't. We just thought he couldn't. We just thought he physically couldn't do more than he did as a quarterback, that he was getting everything he could out of his abilities and squeezing all he could out of those lemons. Turns out he probably could. He just didn't want to. And
it comes across as just selfish, right? Like, if all of these reports are accurate, he just comes across as a guy who only worries about himself. Like, between the New England stories about the fact that he quit on the team because he was worried about his contract, and now he's not really worried about working with the team. It comes across as me.
In fairness, it's hard to be that handsome and not only think about yourself, right?
I'd never know.
I would think so.
I would never know.
I can tell you from experience.
916-339-1140 is the text line. The phone number is 1-800-920-1140. Don't forget, website, SactownSports.com. YouTube.com/SactownSports1140. Have you changed? Do you feel differently about Jimmy Garoppolo's run in San Francisco after these reports? We'll get your thoughts on that. Also, what is the toughest and then easiest stretch of the Kings' schedule? Find that out in 90 seconds.
Trying to get you home after another long day and through the drive time afternoon traffic. Cattles and Ramie, Sactown Sports 1140.
Do you think differently of Jimmy Garoppolo after reading and hearing these stories on how he would just ghost the Niners? Does it surprise you? Does it surprise you that that's how he handled his business reportedly in San Francisco? Does it make you feel better moving on from him? Want your thoughts on that? Don't forget, 916-339-1140 is the text line. I do want to get to the toughest and easiest stretch of the Kings' schedule, but before we get to that, let's go to Casey. Casey wants to talk about Jimmy G. Hey, Casey.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Good.
So I'm just curious because I'm a huge Jimmy G fan, and there's been no reports that he's missed any team activities. So it's reported that in the off season he's not around, but he's not missed any mandatory team activities, no training camps, no practices. So I don't understand what the big deal is. I mean, if the guy's gone on off season, he wants to be away from the team. Why is that a big deal?
Casey, I think, and thanks for the phone call, and I appreciate you listening. Ramie, you can jump in and disagree if you'd like, but I think it's twofold. Number one, when you do the bare minimum that is expected of you, you're doing the bare minimum, right? He went to the mandatory stuff. Mm-hmm. Okay, great. He wasn't doing anything extra is the point. And if you want to get to that next level, Casey, when you're an average quarterback especially, you got to do the extra. And so he wasn't doing the extra. Jimmy's not this naturally preordained, unbelievable athlete and quarterback, right? So he wasn't doing the extra. Secondly, I would also say just the lack of communication. That's lack of professionalism.
Right. I 100% respect drawing that line and going, hey, man, it's me time now. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I punched out.
Yep.
And I'm not on the clock. I'm not working. It's me time. Don't bother me with this. Or even just shutting off your phone after a certain. I'm cool with that. I'm totally fine with that. Not how I roll, but I'm cool with that. The story that got me was not his boss, not his coach, not the GM, not his offensive coordinator. One of his teammates said he called him every day for a month. A wide receiver said he called him every day for a month.
Right.
And this dude did not return a call. That's just straight up being a bad teammate and a bad leader. You know what I mean?
Yep.
If you want to excuse not taking the playbook, if you want to excuse not answering to his coaches or his boss and drawing that line of saying, hey, man, I'm punched out and I have a life outside of football and I'm out here living that life. That's one. But a teammate calling you every day for a month and you don't return that call, that's outrageous. That's flat out outrageous.
Yeah. And when you, again, the mandatory stuff, cool, great. You got to the mandatory stuff. But if you want to perceive, if you want to, let off the feel that you are striving for excellence and trying to be a QB1 and trying to be, somebody who could one day be elite and you want to be a leader of the team, it's the extra stuff. It is. Whether you think it's fair or not, like everybody's got to make the mandatory stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when your boss asks you to go to an optional meeting and you're like, should I go? Should I not go? Does it look like I don't care if I don't go? Sometimes you don't, you feel like you don't have to go and you could skip some of them. But if you pretty much say, it's optional, I'm not going to go to any of these things, then people are going to look at it and say, well, does he really care? He's making the mandatory stuff, but does he really care? And as Ramie said, on the very foundational thought process here of a human being and a teammate, one of your wide receivers tries to get a hold of you for a month, you probably want to at least send a text back to the guy. Like, that's just, it's common courtesy.
If I call JJ Overlot every day for a month and they don't return my call, I'm offended.
Yeah.
I'm offended.
It's like,
and I think that you don't like me very much.
You guys are my producers. Right. Like, what happened there?
Thought we were boys.
Did I do something wrong? Let's jump to the Kings here for a couple of minutes, though. Again, schedule came out yesterday. I want to look at the toughest and the easiest stretch. I could always get back to your calls and thoughts on Jimmy G as well, so don't be concerned by that. We'll get back to you if you got some thoughts. But when you look at this schedule of the Kings, Ramie, I'll start with the toughest stretch. To me, the toughest stretch is January 21st to the All-Star break. And I'll give you some numbers on this. The Kings, from January 21st to the All-Star break, will play 13 games in 25 nights.
Okay.
That's a lot of basketball in a short amount of time, right? 5 of those 13 games are at home. So 5 of 13 games at home. In those 5 home games, listen to the teams they have to play. Philadelphia should be one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference, even if James Harden goes out the night before and does whatever he does. They should still be very good. Memphis, very good basketball team. Toronto, I think, is going to be good. Scotty Barnes continues to improve. They're going to be good. It's very good. And then you've got Dallas on a back-to-back against Luka and company. So you've got 13 games in 25 nights. 5 of those 13 are at home. But those 5 home games, Philly, Memphis, Toronto, Dallas twice. And they have not 1, not 2, but 3 back-to-backs during that stretch.
What?
Yeah, 3 back-to-backs. And the road games they play, some of them, you've got Minnesota twice, playoff team, Phoenix, and the Pelicans on the road. When I look at that stretch, the other thing, Ramie, is that's right around, you're starting to talk about trade deadline season.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be a telling part of their season. When you play 13 games in 25 nights, 5 of 13 at home, a number of those, 13 games against really good basketball teams, right as you get ready for the All-Star break, trading deadline, we're going to find out a lot about this team in late January as we head into the break in mid-February.
They have a few tests on the schedule in terms of some stretches. The 2 long road trips, one in mid-December and then another one at the end of January going into February. Their last 20 games, 10 at home, 10 on the road, so they're going to be bouncing back and forth, a lot of travel. 15 teams of those last 20 made the playoffs last year. But Nick, and I talked about this yesterday on the show when the schedule first came out, they get a test right out of the gates.
Yeah.
In the first month, in the first 30 days of their schedule. Now it's only 14 games, so unlike that stretch that you were talking about, a lot of rest in there. And I think 4 of their first 5 games are 4 of the team's first 5 games are at home. But 14 games in the first month of the schedule, 10 of those are against teams that at the very least made the play-in last year, if not the playoffs. 6 of those games will be against top 4 seeds in the playoffs last year. And of the 3 teams on the schedule, or of the 4 teams on the schedule that month that didn't make the playoffs last year, 3 of those include Portland and the Clippers, who are both going to get huge players back from injuries and made huge strides in improving their roster in the offseason.
Correct.
And then another one is the Lakers, who they have LeBron and Anthony Davis. And I know it didn't work last year, but that doesn't mean it won't work this year. They were just the champs in 2020. Those are 2 supremely talented guys. And if they're healthy and clicking, which you would think they would be to start the season, that's another tough win. So you basically have potentially 13 very tough matchups of your first 14 games to start the season in the first month.
Not many easy stretches. But one of the stretches that I like for them is that first half of January. I just told you how late January into the All-Star break is going to be very, very tough.
Mm-hmm.
The first half of January, there's some softness there, right? You have 9 of 11 games at home. They have 11-game stretch, 9 of those at home. Now, they got to play Memphis and Philly as the bookends of those 11 games, which, 2 very tough teams. But between Memphis and Philly, they play Utah, not going to be very good. Atlanta, we have no idea what they're going to look like.
Mm-hmm.
The Lakers, unless they make a trade for Kyrie, I still don't think they're a great basketball team. And the Kings played them close multiple times last year. They've got LA twice. They play Houston, who's going to not be very good, twice. They play Orlando. They play San Antonio. And then they play OKC. So there's that, it's going to be a fascinating January because they have a pretty good stretch in the first half of home games and against teams that aren't necessarily very good.
Right.
And then they go right into that tough stretch, I said. So I have a feeling like if things go according to plan here, we're going to have a very rocky January, which is going to be fascinating because you might have a really good start the first half, and then as you get into the All-Star break, you might not be feeling as good about the team at that point. And if you're Monty McNair, what do you do as you get ready for the deadline?
By the time they come back from that second long road trip, the one end of January, start of February, we're going to know exactly where everybody's at on the Kings. You're either going to be sold on this new plan and this new team with Mike Brown and the guys that they added this year, or it's going to be they screwed it up again. By the time they come back from that road trip, there's going to be a very solid feeling on where Kings fans are at with this basketball team.
916-339-1140 text line. Don't forget YouTube. Like us. Subscribe to the channel, youtube.com, Sactown Sports 1140. Lots of people talking about Trey Lance's ceiling. We're going to discuss his floor. It's coming up next.
Cattles and Ramie. One guy's trying not to throw furniture.
That's a personal foul.
While the other's still trying to find some. Cattles and Ramie. Sactown Sports, 1140.
Just told me you're going to have furniture soon?
I am. It's supposedly. Supposedly. I don't know. Supposedly.
This is big.
Got on a truck yesterday.
Do you trust this information?
No, absolutely not.
Dude, it's been 2 months.
Absolutely not.
My word.
Yeah.
You've been living on a air mattress.
Yeah.
For 2 months.
And a TV that's sitting on top of a cooler.
I'll tell you, you do not want to have a contract negotiation standstill with Ramie Makaloff. Because he's going to stand in that spot. He's going to draw that line. He's going to sleep on his air mattress and watch his tiny TV.
It's in my culture. We are a stubborn people.
With the one table.
We are a stubborn people.
We're going to get to...
I'm allowed to say that.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
When it shows up.
Yeah, right. Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
I'm not going to congratulate you.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
It's on the truck.
And be thinking I'll be sitting on a couch next week. You know what I mean?
Look at this guy. Look at this elitist.
Look at this guy sitting on a couch.
Thinks he's a big deal. He's got like a coffee table. Look at this guy.
Like kitchen appliances. I know.
Look at him with his fancy knives.
Look at me with a coffee maker.
You need that coffee maker.
I really
complain every day about the coffee here. Every day. It's the coffees.
Not drinking the Pete's down the hall?
I'm happy with everything in this building except the coffee situation.
Not happy with the coffee. He's not. He's not. I can't tell you how many times this man has complained to me about the coffee. I'm like, I don't know what to do.
I'm thinking about bringing a Keurig in here.
I don't drink coffee.
I'm legitimately thinking about bringing a Keurig in here.
Don't drink coffee. Couldn't care less.
Just so I can make a fresh cup of coffee during the show.
It has bothered you.
It has.
By the way, this text bothers me. If you took a team to the NFC Championship game twice in 3 years and you don't feel valued, why do the extra? The texter's talking about Jimmy G, 916-339-1140. Well, I could easily push back and say, well, if you're not doing the extra, then should you feel valued?
And dude, this was after the introductory press conference.
This isn't like
peace out, y'all.
Like maybe they did not necessarily value Jimmy G because they were like, okay, he's been average on the field. We've continued to hide him on the field with scheme and other things. And off the field, this dude couldn't care less about getting better. So maybe if Jimmy G did the extra, maybe if Jimmy G stayed in communication, I don't know, maybe the Niners don't make that trade and draft Trey Lance.
They literally showed him how much they value him with the richest contract ever given to a quarterback.
I mean, this dude's going to bring home $27 million this year. I would not be crying for him.
And he went to a press conference and was like, can't wait to get to the hard work, you guys. Then waited the whole offseason to get to the hard work.
Just, I mean...
I could understand that if this was like a late development in Jimmy's time with the 49ers, that text right there would make sense, but it was literally the introductory press conference.
Yeah, like what came first?
After which he disappeared.
Them not believing in him or valuing him or him doing what he did.
Right.
Him doing what he did came first. So let's continue to talk about Niners quarterbacks. Let's talk about Trey Lance. A lot of people talking about Lance, and this has continued throughout the whole offseason. As a matter of fact, as we sit in the studio on ESPN right now, Kyle Shanahan on the I Am Athlete podcast talking about Lance, and Monday Night Countdown is it's really confusing, by the way, because it's Thursday. But Monday Night Countdown literally talking about Trey Lance.
Before the Bears and the Seahawks.
Yes.
They're talking about Trey Lance.
So this talk continues about the young quarterback.
We're hopping on the train.
Here was I've not heard this. This is something new. I've been out so long.
This is new too. This is new today.
I didn't even know. All right.
This music is new today. We just had a train sound effect before this.
I didn't know the bit. Nobody told me about the bit.
That's today. I like it.
There you go.
Yeah.
The choo-choo train, the hype train. So here's Pete Schrager and Jason McCourty from Good Morning Football on the NFL Network.
I've seen James Jones. I've seen Louis Riddick, who's respected and covers the NFL at a high level. He has said the same sort of thing. There's this feeling that, like, this guy might be that. I don't want to be the one to say he's not good. Like, a lot of people doubted Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson did take the league by storm. Do you feel like Trey Lance, inexperience understood, has that potential of taking the league by storm this year?
I think so. And I think because of the inexperience, we don't have a huge test sample. So we don't really know. And I think when you look at quarterbacks, when they sometimes come on the scene, when Cam Newton first came on the scene his rookie year, took off because you hadn't really seen it. You don't know how to prepare for it. Then you give somebody, these defensive coordinators, 17 games to study a guy in the entire offseason. You're able to really figure out what they do. Lamar Jackson took off.
I know.
Trey Lance, 389 throws since high school. I mean, unless they're putting Pop Warner film on, there's not a lot of tape.
Not a lot of tape. Then we got Chris Canty from ESPN waxing poetic about the Niners and Trey Lance.
My bold prediction for this season is that the 49ers will represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. That's how confident I am in this 49ers team and the development of Trey Lance because of who's doing it, Kyle Shanahan, and what's around him, the supporting cast. You're talking about a top 5 run game, a top 5 skill position core, and a top 5 defense. All the elements are there for Trey Lance to be successful. And the thing that Trey Lance brings is a couple of new dimensions to the offense. The vertical passing game. We saw it in the preseason game with the bomb he threw to Danny Gray. And then the quarterback as a focal point of the running game. Kyle Shanahan hasn't had either one of those things since he got to San Francisco. So now you're talking about giving one of the best play callers, one of the most creative play designers, a weapon like this under center to go along with all the other weapons he has. Look out for the rest of the NFL. The 49ers are about to show up in a big way.
All right, so we've talked, Ramie, a lot about the ceiling here on Sactown Sports, Cattles and Ramie, of Trey Lance. What's his floor?
His floor?
Yeah.
You want like a comp?
Like, what could he do that would, like, what would be disappointing to you for Trey Lance? Like, if you said bare minimum, you can give me a ranking, you can give me numbers, however you want to handle it.
His floor, I think, is like mediocre. Like when we talk about how we rank quarterbacks when this season, if you were like ranking 1 to 30,
32 quarterbacks in the league that'll start.
I need him to be better than mediocre. He can't be like the 15th or 16th. I don't expect him to be number 1.
So you want him better than 15 or 16?
I think he needs to be better than average.
JJ.
Because you said Jimmy is average.
Yeah.
He needs to be better than average.
If you're ranking quarterbacks, right, JJ, what do you think Trey Lance's floor is this year? If you're going 1 through 32, what would you be happy with as his floor? Like bare minimum.
Bare minimum, give me 15.
15?
Smack dab in the middle, even though that's not in the middle, but 16, okay.
Verlad?
I was actually going to go lower. I would say like 20.
See, I'm actually going to bridge the gap here. I'm kind of in between. Like, to me, it's like late teens. Like if he's like 17, 18, and I think if I look at numbers, right, I think he should have at least, say, 700 rushing yards. It sounds like a lot, but Lamar Jackson has had over 1,000 multiple times in his career. Lance's ability to run, Shanahan's scheme. The cool thing is Shanahan is a dual-threat quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Garoppolo, not a dual-threat quarterback. Matt Ryan, certainly not a dual-threat quarterback. Kirk Cousins, not a dual-threat quarterback. So he's going to have the opportunity to have a guy who can crush you with his legs, which will be a fascinating thing. Jimmy Garoppolo, average, but he threw 27 touchdowns in 2019. I don't think it's crazy to think that as a floor, Lance could give you 30 to 35 combined touchdowns. Like, I don't think it's nuts to say this guy, especially with the added game, 17 games. I don't think it's nuts to say he can get you 30, 31, 32 touchdowns.
As a floor? If you're saying that's his floor, that's
for the floor, I'd probably say 25, 20,
okay.
25 to 28, somewhere in that range. But you've got to remember about him running the football. Like, I think he could have 7, 8 rushing touchdowns.
And that's what I meant. I was including that. I wasn't just talking about purely passing the ball. I was including the element of using his legs and the combined impact that he'll have on this offense when I said better than average.
I feel like his floor this year should be somewhere in the mid to late teens. If you get anything better than that, then like I'd be very excited. It's always an interesting exercise. Like some people might say, "Well, Nick, that might sound a little, that might sound a little bit deep as far as rankings go." Like, it's not great.
I mean, haven't the Niners set the floor? It's Jimmy G, right?
Like if you, yeah, true.
Like just be as good as Jimmy G.
Just be as good as that guy was. But if you look at quarterback rankings, I'm telling you, like it'll surprise you how many, quarterbacks are good to really good in this league. And when you start kind of putting them together, it'll be fascinating. The Derek Carrs of the world, the Kirk Cousins of the world. What does Trevor Lawrence do in his second season? What do all the second-year quarterbacks do in their second season? Do they develop? Do they get better? So I think if you're like mid to late teens, you feel pretty good about it. Because as Chris would say, the floor, if you're looking at Jimmy G production as the floor, then if he hits that floor.
And Jimmy G was a middle-of-the-road type of quarterback.
With his first year as a starter, when you look at Trey. And you would hope that Trey does the work, and you would hope that Trey would continue to get better. The thing with Jimmy is he really never got better. Just he was what he was, and he couldn't stop getting hurt, which was another problem. So I think you'd feel pretty good about that. The more Deshaun Watson talks, the worse it gets. Hear that for yourself coming up next.
It's Cattles. It's Ramie. Sactown Sports 1140. Rock the local sports talk in the afternoon. Travis and Ramie. Sactown Sports 1140.
We get back to the Kings, some other observations and takeaways from their schedule. Also, we've got some Debo news and what his role might be this coming year versus what it was last season. We'll get to all of that. But before we do, let's talk Deshaun Watson because Watson spoke today. And Ramie, the more this guy talks, the worse things get.
I mean, you always want guys to like face the music and answer the questions, but if I'm in Deshaun Watson's camp, I'm just going silent here, man. If I don't have to talk to the media or send him out to talk to, I'm not, because he just keeps looking worse. He just keeps looking worse.
It's like
in this thing.
It's a catch-22 for him, really, because he has to talk. He has to get in front of the media, but he just doesn't know how to do a good job of it.
And Jimmy Haslam is worse.
Oh,
the Browns owner.
We'll get to them clowns in a minute. The Haslams put a tent over that circus. The Browns organization's a joke. Laughingstock. Watson doesn't help it. The Haslams don't help it. You can almost understand the player, right? I mean, some players just aren't great with the media. Some players aren't great taking accountability for all sorts of things. Owners are supposed to be better at it, but we know there's a lot of NFL owners that aren't great. Jerry Jones, not necessarily awesome taking accountability for things.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel Snyder, and the list can go on and on and on. But every time Watson opens his mouth, it's like it's almost hard to believe what comes out. Here he was today talking to the media about moving forward.
First off, I want to say, I'm very grateful for the NFL and the NFLPA for this disciplinary process to be, to a close and to an ending and have some clarity. And I'm looking forward to just moving forward with my career and being able to get back on the field as soon as possible. But that's the plan, is to continue to grow as a person and individual and keep pushing forward.
I want people to remember continue to grow, because that's how he ended it. I just want to continue to grow, with the idea of him continuing to grow and mature and develop. Here was Watson on making his apology.
I apologized beforehand. I think the second time I spoke to you guys, I actually apologized. But I think for some people, it didn't maybe register as I was apologizing. But, I just wanted to clarify, I was apologizing to all women and people that was affected about this situation, because it's, it's definitely a tough situation.
So I want to continue to grow. I want to continue to get better. Well, how about the apology? You haven't really made much of an apology. No, Ramie. See, I made the apology. It was you that didn't understand that I was apologizing. That's quite the approach.
I literally don't even know what I just heard.
Words.
I literally don't even know. That was just word salad. That was the most non-apology apology that I've ever heard.
You didn't understand I was apologizing. Maybe because you didn't do a good job of apologizing. Maybe it's because you did not apologize.
Because you can't apologize until you accept accountability, until you say I did something wrong, and then accept accountability. All your apologies are empty, dude.
It's like Deshaun's like, no, it sounded like an apology in my head, but everybody else outside of my head did not think it was an apology. But that's on everybody else. It's not on me. Not on me. All of you were wrong. All of you just misunderstood what I was saying. What I was doing was I was apologizing, but now I'm not really going to apologize anyway. Here was more from Watson.
I've always stood on my innocence and always said that I've never assaulted anyone or disrespected anyone, and I'm continuing to stand on that. But at the same time, I have to continue to push forward with my life and my career. And for us to be able to move forward, I have to be able to take steps and put pride to the side. And I'm going to continue to stand on my innocence and keep pushing forward. And I've always, stood on not disrespecting or sexual assaulting anyone.
What do you apologize for then? What do you apologize for?
For everyone that was affected about this situation. There was a lot of people that was triggered.
But not the women that accused you of this?
I've apologized to all women. So anybody that was affected, even yourself.
What?
Everything. So I'm apologizing to everyone that was affected about this whole situation.
He's sorry for triggering women.
Just stop talking. Just stop. If I'm the Browns and I'm in Deshaun Watson's camp, just stop. This keeps getting worse. You keep making it worse.
I'm sorry I triggered everybody.
How did you trigger everybody, Deshaun?
Well, they didn't understand my apology because I apologized and just nobody was able to comprehend that apology. My apology was so good that you could not comprehend that it was an apology. He's sorry for triggering women when he is accused of being a predator towards women. That comment is so disgusting and so
and he can't
delusional.
He can't say I did it. Like which is what makes all of this. I don't know if he would, if he could, but that's what makes all of this a pointless exercise.
Yes.
The dude is going up there and jumping through hoops to not admit any guilt, but still somehow seem remorseful.
So you have him saying, look, I did not sexually assault anyone. Meanwhile, the lead investigator says, well, that's not really true. We believe the accusers. And the judge comes out and publicly within her statement and her written statement and decision saying, oh, well, Deshaun Watson was a big fat liar on the stand, and I didn't believe a word he said, and I do think he's a predator. By the way, if you didn't do anything wrong, then why did you agree to a treatment contingency to come back? Why do you need treatment if you did nothing wrong?
That just tells me, and again, for me, that's the most important part of all this, the whole suspension and penalty that was handed down today, because I would, like, best case scenario, Deshaun Watson knows that there's something wrong with him, and he goes and finds out what is wrong with him so that he doesn't do this again for his sake, but more so for the sake of any woman who finds themselves in a room with Deshaun Watson. But if that's how he feels behind closed doors, maybe he's just saying this because he has to protect his backside.
Maybe
legally.
Maybe
he knows that he did something wrong. He knows he needs this counseling. But if that's how he feels behind closed doors, there's no point to that counseling.
Let's have one more from him.
Yeah, I'm moving on with my career and my life, and I'm continuing to stand on my innocence. Just because, settlements and things like that happen doesn't mean that a person is guilty for anything. I feel like the person has the opportunity to stand on his innocence and prove that, and we proved that on the legal side, and we're just going to continue to push forward as an individual and as a person.
No, you didn't. You didn't prove that you were innocent in any way because the grand jury did not decide to continue to pursue the charges and put you into the court system. That you did not prove anything on the legal side. That's the Adam Schefter tweet. Remember when people get all fired up about it? Just because the grand jury decides not to indict doesn't mean that you're innocent. So no, you have not proven anything. I'm sorry, you haven't. You've done nothing when it comes to the legal side. You settled. And yeah, it doesn't mean that you're guilty when you settle, but it certainly doesn't mean you're innocent when you settle cases. And by the way, again, Judge Sue Robinson said that you lied when you were on the stand. So, Ramie's point behind closed doors, that testimony was behind closed doors and he was lying his face off in front of a judge. So now let's get to the Haslam's because I have to get to this one soundbite. They are clueless. Here were the Haslam's during a Q&A with the media.
Deshaun was remorseful when he continues to say he didn't do anything wrong. And then on top of that, Robinson said that she found that he showed no remorse or little remorse in her investigation and assessment of what happened.
So, Jake, what's the question?
What makes you say that he was remorseful?
Well, because we're around him every day, and he said he's remorseful.
No.
He didn't say that until just the day of that Jacksonville.
I think I said it pretty well, is that this counseling is a process, and it's going to take some time for him, the layers and the layers upon getting there. We feel like he's making progress, and with us, we have seen that.
And let me say one other thing, too. He was also involved in civil litigation during that time period, too, okay? And so a lot of what held Deshaun back was he was counseled by his attorneys not to say anything, okay?
Then what's holding him back now?
Yeah, that's over.
Civil litigation has been over for months, for the most part. The settlement back and forth, I get that part. But the grand jury came back. He wasn't worried about that. It was a civil case going back and forth. That's been settled, 23 of the 24 women. Maybe he's worried about the one woman. But this guy has shown no remorse. I still don't think that he has apologized in the right manner. Again, Ramie does have a great point. I don't know if he can apologize the way we want him to, because if he does, he leaves himself susceptible. Maybe he's at the point when he's like, I just don't want to talk about it anymore. If he comes out and says, I don't want to talk about it anymore, people are going to say, look at this guy, he doesn't want to talk about it. So there's really not a winning position for him outside of saying, yeah, I acted as a predator and I had 66 or 67 massage therapists. And, there were some pretty ugly things that happened.
Nobody's going to be satisfied.
No.
With anything short of him coming out and going, I did a bad thing and I'm sorry for doing that.
But there
bad
are
thing.
things that they could do.
He could have handled it better than he did,
Yes.
for sure. And the Haslams could have handled it better than they did, for sure. But there was nothing that was going to leave us all satisfied and happy with the Deshaun Watson situation today. There wasn't. That's why the best thing for him would probably just be not talk to the media.
At this point, you've talked enough. Just move on.
Just move on.
The Kings schedule released yesterday. Ramie and I will have our number one takeaway coming up next.
Cattles and Ramie. Sactown Sports 1140. Sacramento has a new tag team in the afternoons.
You're talking to the original tag team of ugly pukes here.
It's Cattles. It's Ramie. Sactown Sports 1140.
One more hour. Should we put like the 3 up above our heads like college football players do the 4? Should we do the 3? Let's close it strong. Close it strong. The Kings schedule finally came out yesterday, Ramie. If you had one big takeaway from the schedule, what is it?
They're going to be, and I talked about this earlier in the show, they're going to be tested right out of the gates.
Right out the gate.
Right. I mean, what did I say? 10 playoff teams in the first 14 games, 6 of those top 4 seeds, 3 games against the defending champion Golden State Warriors.
Yes.
Like they get a measuring stick right out of the gates for this new look Kings team with Mike Brown and Herder and Malik Monk and handing the keys over. I know it started last season, but full time to the duo of Fox and Sabonis. Like we're gonna find out what this thing is gonna look like and what it looks like against stiff competition right out of the gates. I'm not saying it's the be all end all, and after 14 games, either be all in or all out on the Sacramento Kings. It's an 82 game season, but first month of the season, immediately this team will be tested. And I kind of like that. I don't know about you, but I kind of like that.
I like it. And my number one takeaway, it's kind of funny, like not in a ha-ha kind of way, but my number one takeaway is that October actually sets this team up great. And I'm not necessarily looking at the level of competition because, Ramie, you're right. I mean, it's a tough stretch when you look at, who they've got. You've named a number of the teams that are involved early on in the season in October. But the reason why I think it's great is because, number one, they have one long plane trip in the entire month of October.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the longest trip they're taking is to Charlotte, and that's at the end of the month. Everything else is like within hailing distance. They've got to play LA, obviously a very quick plane ride. They've got to play Phoenix. I just took that plane ride last week, about an hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes. So they don't have a lot of travel. They don't have to worry about jumping on planes, traveling cross country, flying 5 hours, 6 hours, 4 hours. They don't have any of that. So what does that mean? They've got 4 home games and 1 game at Golden State. Again, aside from the Charlotte trip, which is at the end of the month.
Right.
So the entire month of October, you've got LA, Phoenix, those trips, and then you play at Golden State 90 minutes down the road. Everything else is at Golden 1. You're sleeping in your own bed. You're eating your own food. You're around your family. You're around your friends. You know how to get to the arena. You know when you have to get to the arena. The familiarity factor of October is why I love it, because let's think about where this team is, right? Practice time. You got a new head coach. You got a lot of new faces. Malik Monk, Kevin Herder, the list goes on and on. Keegan Murray. We know the new names, right? So you've got a number of new names and new faces. You have a new coach, a new coaching staff, aside from Doug, who, by the way, I saw was in here earlier. He did not say hello to me. I'm offended.
Did not pop in?
Yeah. Doug Christie, if you're listening, I'm offended.
In the building, doesn't stop in. He doesn't say hi.
I know that I'm offended doesn't bother you at all, but I'm offended.
He doesn't know me at all, but you don't say hello?
I think he was a little embarrassed because he came here for coaching tips.
Oh, got it.
Gotcha.
I helped him out. I'm a team guy.
Nice. Job well done, Verlot. So you got a new coaching staff aside from Doug, right? For the most part. So you're learning a new system. There's a lot of new. We said it after the draft. Man, there's a lot of new with this team.
Mm-hmm.
And with new comes excitement, and I think with new comes promise. But with new, yeah, exactly. Uncertainty, unpredictability. So really the best thing for a team that is just getting together, trying to figure things out, is to have a lot of time with each other and to have a lot of practice time. And that's what they're going to have. They're going to have a ton of games in this area within, from LA. You can stretch it a little bit to Phoenix, but right here at Golden 1, they're going to have a ton of activity. So they're going to have a lot of time to practice. They have 11 days off between October 14th and 31st.
There is a lot of downtime built in early into the schedule.
I mean, they have 11 days off. The 14th to the 31st. The last time I checked, that's 17 days? 11 of those 17 days they have off. That is a lot of practice time. That is a lot of opportunity for Mike Brown to get these guys together and say, this is what we're doing. This is how we've got to do it. And you don't have to worry about, some people would say distractions when you're at home. I look at distractions on the road. Like, you don't have to worry about staying at hotels, eating at restaurants, going to bars and having nightlife, and maybe some guys wanting to go out, other guys not wanting to go out. Early wake-up calls to get up on a trip, or late nights, overnight trips. All of that, all of those distractions are taken away. It's literally your house in Golden One for most of the month of October. And I think for a team that's trying to, if you're talking about a team like the Celtics or the Miami Heat, or teams that have been together for a couple of years, right, that know each other well, that's less of a concern. But for a team trying to get off to a great start right out of the blocks with a lot of new talent, new coaching staff.
Sleeping in your own bed while you're doing that.
And just being able to take a trip down the road and have practice time and then go back and just chill out your house. You have your family. Like, think about it from Keegan Murray's standpoint. This is fantastic. Like, Keegan gets to fully settle. He gets all of his stuff in order. He gets to hang out in Sacramento and figure out what the area is. He gets to go to a ton of practice and start learning the systems. So I just think when you have that home cooking and you have those home crowds, I think that's a really, really good thing for this team. So the month of October was my number one takeaway. Something else that I wanted to mention that could be another takeaway. When you do look at it extended, right? When you move on from the first 10, 11 games, 8, 10 games, the first 20 games, and you mentioned this, they're tough. And to highlight that, Matt Moore at Action Network, he actually tweeted out last night, the Kings, first 20 games, it is the 8th toughest schedule in the NBA. So, as I said, I'm paying less attention to the competition than to the team, time together and practice time, so they can hopefully by November and December be in a really good spot. But the competition, as you mentioned, 11 home games, 9 away. And once you move away from, I mentioned the time that they stay at home in October, once you get to Charlotte, the rest of your schedule, there is a good amount of flying, because then you got to fly to Charlotte at the end of January. In the end of October. Then you got to fly to Miami. Orlando, that's pretty much a car trip,
it's a bus
trip.
Yeah, it's a Greyhound.
But then you go from Orlando to Golden State, so when you look at
it's
the
more
first
than a Greyhound.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hopefully. If you're taking a Greyhound, it's going to take you a while. So, as Matt Moore tweeted out, they have to fly the 11th most miles in the NBA for the first 20 games when you compare them to everybody else. So they have a lot of travel time once they get through October. Early November is tough. Only 2 back-to-backs, though. So when you look at, I mentioned about their toughest stretch of having, I think it was 3 back-to-backs in a matter of, 3 weeks, something crazy. When you look at the first 20 games, they only got 2 back-to-backs. And then when you get to late November, it does ease up a little bit. I would not be surprised. Look, there's 2, to me, in the first half of this season. There are clearly 2 portions of the schedule that you have to be concerned about if you're the Kings. And I think it'll give you a good idea as to where you are. The first part of the schedule is what we're talking about, the first 20 games, especially the beginning of November. It's going to be a difficult stretch. Then November gets a little easier. December's not too crazy. But then the stretch in January we talked about. Like those 2 stretches, the first 20 games, and then late January to the All-Star break, those 30 to 35 games, Ramie, that's it. If you can try to somewhat tread water,
I'll be in or out on this team.
You'll be in a really good spot if you could tread water.
I'll either be 100% saying I told you this was a playoff team, or I'll be going, God, I was wrong, guys. My bad. I had this all wrong, and the Makloff magic did not work.
Well, we're banking on the Makloff magic.
We'll know one way or another, though, if the Makloff magic is working. I think by the end of January, beginning of February, we'll know who this basketball team is.
I agree with you, which is a good spot for Monty. There's not going to be – I don't think there's going to be a lot of guesswork here. Like, once you get to the All-Star break, you've seen easy stretches. You've seen, I think, your toughest stretch. You've seen the team on the road a lot and how they're adjusting to the coaching staff. I think you're going to have a really good feel for this team by the time you get to the middle of January or so. I think the first 2 months, 2.5 months is going to give you a really good idea as to who they are and what they're about. And again, that'll be good for Monty because then Monty can make some decisions. Last year he traded Tyrese Halliburton. Everybody lost their mind. No one saw that coming. He obviously made a decision in the evaluation that they could do that and in his estimation be better. And De'Aaron Fox played much better. Domas was a good pickup. The injuries derailed what they could have built in the final few weeks of the season. But I do think you'll have a good idea. And Monty will have a good idea in the front office.
I believe in Monty McNair.
I do too.
Can I ask you something real quick?
Sure.
Did you just have to sanitize your hands after you picked up the Kings schedule from?
I did.
You got it bad, man.
Yes.
Okay, just checking.
I saw you look at me sanitize my hands, so I knew that was the question.
Like as soon as you put down the schedule, and without breaking stride in terms of you were in mid-sentence, you just pulled the sanitizer out. And
are you impressed by that?
A little bit, but also like, man, you got it bad.
Yeah.
How do you are you one of these people who wears gloves out in public?
No.
Okay. Like the white gloves?
No.
So you don't?
No.
All right.
No.
Just checking.
And I don't wear like a mask out in public unless I'm like in like a congested
Crowded
area,
sure.
or the airport. I did the airplane. I did.
But everything you touch, I'm assuming.
I just don't trust anybody else's hands. Dude, I've been in radio a long time. I've seen some bad things. Okay. I know Dave's touched that thing. I know Jason's probably touched that schedule.
What are you saying?
I don't need to know where
what
the
are you
hands
saying
have
about
been.
Dave and Jason?
And you, frankly. I haven't Stone
touched the
Cold Steve
schedule.
Austin, DTA. Don't trust anybody.
I haven't touched that schedule. So
Don't
put
trust-
me in a wetsuit. Get me on some slippery stairs.
See? Don't trust any hands. Don't trust anybody.
That's the first time I've heard that sound.
Can we do it again?
Put me in a wetsuit. Get me on some slippery stairs.
Is Kyle Shanahan going to change
Out of context?
Is Kyle? Don't touch the schedule. Is Kyle Shanahan going to change Debo's role this season? Find out the latest in 90 seconds.
Check out the Golf to Go Hour with Frank LaRoche. Up and elbows, talking sports, and lots of other stuff. Let's keep you on edge. That's really crazy, interesting. Saddles and Ramie, Sactown Sports, 1140.
The YouTube thing's freaking me out. You see when we come back with this new setup. By the way, tremendous setup. If you haven't
It's
been
beautiful.
Oh my! If you looked at our YouTube like 6 months ago, yikes! Look at the presentation now. It is fancy. And I know
Just
Chris.
Get me a ring light, and we're all set to
Chris,
go.
you and your ring light. I know what to do with that ring light if you bring one in the studio. I'll tell you that right now. But shout out to our guy Chris Watkins, who has done a lot of this work, if not all of it, with the graphics. I think it looks fantastic. And Jay Mars and Chris and JJ have all played a role to make sure that this thing looks really, really good. And I think it looks fantastic. Check it out, YouTube, Sactown Sports 1140. By the way, subscribe.
Hey, Nick, real quick, we're trying to figure out who Chris Watkins is. I thought his name was Charles.
Charles Watkins.
Charles from Digital. You haven't heard that?
No.
Oh, yeah, man.
Dave gave him a big shout out.
Yes.
What happened?
We have a new employee, Charles from Digital.
Yeah. Dave gave him a huge shout out.
Do we have that sound?
I'd have to dig it up.
Please tell me we have the sound. So Dave thanked Charles Watkins. Thank you, Charles. I did not hear that. Charles Watkins.
Neither did I.
It makes Chris sound a little fancy though. Charles Watkins instead of Chris. Charles.
Think Charles is more fancy sounding than Chris?
Yes. 100%.
You don't put up the poll. Fancier name, Charles.
You put up the poll. You don't tell me what to do. You don't boss at me. Put up the poll. You put up the poll.
Oh, the poll's going up now.
Somebody put a poll up, please.
Fancier name, Charles or Chris?
100% it's Charles.
You think so?
Oh, yes.
I don't know. What about, okay.
I think this is going to be a landslide.
Christopher.
Still taking Charles.
Or Christopher.
Still taking Charles.
Are we going Chris or Christopher?
I think Christopher.
Well, now we're moving the goalposts.
Okay.
The first argument was Chris. Now we're shifting a little bit here.
All right. You can put up Chris. I don't think Charles is more fancy than Chris. I see Charles Barkley. I don't think fancy.
You listen, you could think all you want.
I
think
Charles
you're wrong.
Barkley, but it's not a fancy name.
We know where Chris stands. Chris absolutely believes Chris is a more fancy name than Charles.
Very fancy name.
You guys have to stop saying Christopher, though. Only my family calls me that. I'm getting like these weird shivers.
You got to find out your middle name. You do the whole name thing. Christopher or whatever, Verlot. Anyway, Charles 100% more fancy name. No doubt about that. And absolutely zero doubt in my mind.
We'll find out.
Let's talk about Debo for a minute here, or at least a couple minutes. We spent some time on the Debo role during his contract negotiations. The idea was that he did not enjoy, at least for a time. The reports were that he wasn't necessarily in love with the idea of running the football this year. Debo came out after the contract was done, especially, and said that wasn't true. That was all crap. But now here we are trying to figure out what his role is going to be. How much is he going to run the football for the Niners this season? Peter King was on Damon and Ratto, and here's what King had to say about Debo's touches in the run game.
He looked like Debo Samuel looked last year, but I think from talking to Shanahan and from talking to people there, I don't think they fully intend to use him the way they used him last year in that spot. I think the way they used him last year was a matter of necessity by year's end. I don't think Kyle wants to do that again this year. I would think he would have significantly fewer carries, unless, of course, they get hit again by a spate of injuries in the backfield. But I think they want him to be a wide receiver who can be a multiple weapon, but mostly a wide receiver.
So they want him to be mostly a wide receiver. Here was more from King about Debo's role.
He's a person who has convictions about a lot of things, and I'm sure he has convictions about how he should be used. But I will say this, for 6 weeks last year, he was probably the most exciting player as a Swiss Army knife of anybody in the league. And so if I were him, I'd be careful what I wish for. Not that I would want to carry it 10 times a game, but that's a good little card to be able to have in your back pocket to play if you need to. Shanahan is going to do that, but I just got the distinct impression he doesn't want him running 6 to 8 times every game. I think he wants to use it at times, but certainly not consistently every game.
Ramie, running Debo less this year, good or bad idea?
I think it's a good idea as long as things go according to plan. I mean, Peter King essentially said it right there, that's the 49ers plan, or the plan to use him in the run game last year was out of necessity.
Right.
I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I love that Kyle Shanahan works with what he has and will do things like running Deebo Samuel out of the backfield out of necessity.
Right.
But if we also know what being a running back and taking that ball in the backfield and running into large men with the football, we know what it does to the shelf life of a football player.
Correct.
And as dangerous and as productive as Deebo Samuel can be as a wide receiver, you want him taking as little of that punishment as possible. If you find yourself in a position where to win football games because you're in a win now window, the 49ers are trying to win Super Bowls and not thinking about the future necessarily, at least that's not objective number one, then yeah, you go back to Deebo, but you hope that your running back room can stay healthy enough that you don't have to do that again.
It's a good idea. The element of surprise I like. I like this idea that you could go to that card every once in a while, right? You could pull that card out of the back pocket if you want to every once in a while, but do not overuse it. And I do agree with King, and I mentioned this during the tail end of last year. Everybody loved the idea of Deebo and the wide back and that fun stuff, but that was out of necessity. Necessity, equals creativity. Like at a certain point, you got to get creative because you don't have a lot of answers in the backfield, right? You got Elijah Mitchell, who wasn't always consistently healthy. You now have Elijah Mitchell missing pretty much the entire preseason. I saw that Trey Sermon is banged up again today during practice. But going in, if Sermon is healthy, you have spent 2 third-round picks at the running back position in the last 2 drafts. You cannot afford to spend multiple third-round picks at the running back position and then play your wide receiver 1 at running back. At least not a lot.
Right.
Like at some point, you've got to use the resources that you have. Like you're not drafting running backs to sit them and say, we're going to put Deebo in that spot. So they theoretically have the running backs. They have the roster. And you hit the nail on the head. The biggest concern for me, Ramie, and I know Deebo's a pretty big guy for a wide receiver.
Just real quick, look up at the TV. Oh, you missed it. There's a Seahawks fan at the, sorry to interrupt, Bears Seahawks game holding up a sign that said, we need Jimmy G as soon as possible.
Well,
that's what they're holding out hope for.
It says Seattle more about Seattle than Jimmy G. But the Deebo wear and tear factor, right? And the guy is so important to the team. If you run him, and they didn't run him a ton last year. I do think some of it was overplayed. If you look at the numbers, it wasn't like he was running 10, 15 times a game. But every time he runs the football as a running back, there's absolutely some danger to that. And you do not want to lose Deebo Samuel because you wanted to run him in between the tackles in the third quarter instead of playing one of your running backs and doing that with them.
Even if it's not an injury per se that takes him out on one play, it's for running backs, it's the wear and tear, man. It's just taking that ball and continually being a human battering ram and just running into at least one, if not groups, of large men who have bad intentions when they make contact with you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just that wear and taking those hits over and over and over again that shorten the shelf life of these guys.
And by the way, let's not forget that the quarterback now adds a different element and dimension to this run game as well.
True.
So you not only have the backs that theoretically, hopefully, hypothetically are going to be healthy for you, but you're also going to have a quarterback. So the misdirection kind of trickery that you can play, Trey Lance helps you with that as well. So I think less Deebo running the football as a running back is a good thing and a good idea by this coaching staff.
If you need it, do it.
Yeah, I mean, if you think that it can be effective and create a big play, then sure. But I would hold off for the most part. I would not be. It would not be a consistent part of my offense. Every once in a while, I want to catch him by surprise. Deebo can break a big run. Makes sense. But not too much more than that. 916-339-1140 text line. Phone line 1-800-920-1140. YouTube Sactown Sports 1140. A somewhat surprising decision from one of the best all time. It's coming up next.
Live and past broadcasts of the Carmichael Dave Show with Jason Ross and Cattles and Ramie. Interviews, podcasts, and more. They all and not to throw furniture. That's a personal foul. While the other's still trying to find some. Cattles and Ramie. Cattles and Ramie. Sactown Sports 1140.
So if you're just joining us, a couple of quick updates about Ramie. Allegedly.
Make sure you throw that out.
His furniture is finally on the truck.
Yes.
And on its way out here.
Yes.
So that's
sometime next week.
That is a positive development.
5 to 9 days.
In the negative development category, Ramie found out today that he's going to be spending the weekend.
I know. I'm still very much looking forward to this.
In Clear Lake with his girlfriend.
Very much looking forward to this.
With the toxic algae
There's
that has
toxic
taken
algae
over Clear Lake.
But to me, as long as the article you sent me said there might be a smell.
Yes.
As long as that I can't put up with. That I'm going to be really mad if the whole weekend I'm putting up with a smell. But I didn't want to go in the lake, but the girlfriend wanted to go in the lake. And if the girlfriend goes in the lake, I'm going in the lake with her.
Oh, if she goes in the lake, you go in the lake.
This gives me a very good reason to
stay out of the lake.
So almost a win for me there. As
Clear
long
Lake,
as
Clear Lake not so clear lately.
Apparently not. No, apparently it's not.
Clear Lake is a little
Where's the drummer with the rim shot?
And by the way, the smells you speak of, San Francisco Chronicle says that they are horrendous smells.
Oh, good.
So
Oh, good.
See, we're setting the bar low for you, Ramie. So even if it's just like, okay, you're like, you know what? It was great. I had a great time.
We'll get back to sports in a minute. Sports. But first, it was brought to my attention last segment that Carmichael Dave, his heart was in the right place. He was trying to thank our digital staff for their work on the YouTube page because it looks so much better. Oh, it looks so much better now than it did just a few months ago.
Oh, buddy.
YouTube, Sactown Sports 1140.
Get me that ring light. This thing's going to be perfect.
So will you stop with the ring light? So we have our friend who has worked hard, diligently, on the presentation of YouTube, is our friend Chris Watkins. Chris Watkins. Dave did not get the memo.
Joining us right now, he's been doing some phenomenal work for us. Really, you guys see the work he does.
Oh, no.
And I'm also talking about Frankie and Charles and the whole
Hey, there it is! You know, Freddie and Charles, the digital department.
That's rough.
Dave's producer, Jim Marshall, is all fired up about that. Nate Cattle's here along with Ronnie Mackloff. Shout out to Chase for live.
I mean, the
Johnny and Charles behind the glass.
The thing with this place is, too, we all have like the same name.
I know.
If you say Jay or Chris, you've got like a 50% chance of getting it.
It's so true.
That is true.
So shout out to Charles Watkins. I don't know about you, but my favorite graphic guy in the digital department is Charles Watkins.
You, Chucky.
The great thing is,
we got you, Chuck. You're the man, Chuck.
The best thing too is on the video, Jason is there doing the show.
Yes,
and he hears Chuck, and he kind of gives a look of just like, wait, what?
Who? Charles? Who? What?
Who's Charles?
Did we hire somebody new? We just went through a hiring thing. We get somebody else.
I thought he was actually bringing him on the air when he introduced him. But when you first started playing the clip,
yeah, the big setup.
I thought he was getting the wrong name, like right to his face.
Since you guys
know Charlie Watkins is coming on.
Since you guys are new, you don't even know his best introduction of a guest on the show. I don't know where to find the audio, but he had Pete Rose on one time.
Oh boy!
And introduced him as the home run king of baseball.
Pete was like, I didn't know I had that much.
That's amazing.
No, I had that much power in me.
That's amazing.
We jest because we love. But yes, I think it's a great thing to recognize Chuck Watkins for his incredible work.
YouTube page is sexy, man. Good job, Chuck.
I must say, he is one from Charles to Charlie to Chuck to.
So whenever
he's got 8 names.
Whenever something goes wrong in digital,
appreciate you, Chaz.
Charles.
Oh man! All right. So it's a fun time. So LeBron James gets a 2-year, $97 million deal. He's going to be 39 years old, the final year of this contract. The second year is a player option. He is now aligned with Anthony Davis. Their contracts run out at the same time because he's got a player option that second year. So they can both walk. I don't think that's going to happen. But, Ramie, I mean, I think before we get into, when I'm looking at it from a Sacramento standpoint and Kings standpoint, which I'll get to in a minute, I do think it's the tale of two cities and the tale of two ways that you can try to win in the NBA, right? Before I get to that thought, the 2-year deal for LeBron, I mean, this is like win now, right? All of your money is in LeBron and AD. If you can't trade Westbrook, you have to do everything that you can to win because it's probably not going to look very good for you by 2026.
You didn't have a choice in this if you're the Lakers,
correct?
Did you? Because otherwise, you're just running out. You're just running in place and running out the clock till you get out from the LeBron era, right? Because you're not going to trade him. You had no choice but to if LeBron was open to staying in Los Angeles beyond the contract that he already had. You had no choice but to try and keep him around if you're the Lakers, did you?
I don't think so. And this is what happens when you get into bed with a superstar like LeBron. And that's the whole King side of this as well. It's very difficult to build a team in the NBA without a top 5 guy. It's somewhat difficult to do it without a top 10 guy, but without a top 5 guy, this is where you're at. Like, the Kings have to draft very well, hope that they hit on their picks, hope that their trades work out, hope that their developmental program works. All of that has to be a fine-tuned machine, right? With LA, it's like we got LeBron. LeBron brought AD. He also brought Westbrook, which we'll get to in a minute because he still doesn't want to take any accountability or responsibility for that one. But there's 2 ways. Golden State won because of great drafting and development, and they are the anomaly. So for the Kings to win at a tippity-top level, you need to draft and develop and turn your own into stars, because it's very difficult to win consistently at a high level without, again, one of those top guys. Celtics got Tatum and Brown from the draft. They've developed them. Now Tatum's a top 10 guy. I think just outside the top 5. Golden State, as I said, Miami, yeah, they brought Jimmy Butler in, but they also developed and drafted Bam Adebayo. They drafted and developed Tyler Hero. So, that's the chance for the Kings is, hey, maybe Keegan, you can develop him into something truly special. And we're talking about a guy who's an easy all-star every single year in 20-10, right? Or 20-8 and really good defense. But beyond the money and the team building and all of that, like, and how the Lakers are stuck with, and I hate to say stuck with, because it's not a bad spot when you have one of the best players that's ever played. Mm-hmm. But beyond the money, it's every time we talk about LeBron, we also have to underline the power and the power of LeBron James. And Jovan Buha from The Athletic wrote that the primary complication in James's decision was that he has been privately adamant that the Lakers still need to improve the current roster and trade for Kyrie Irving. Well, it's not so private anymore. I don't think this is a shocker. But, Ramie, your thoughts on LeBron? I mean, it's rather obvious. He's pushing, and he's pushing hard for Kyrie Irving. It's like he made one mistake with Westbrook, and he's like, you know what? I'm going to double down on the point guard position.
He's the second best basketball player I've ever seen in my life. Okay? I'm going to put that out there. But this is a cycle that LeBron goes through with every organization that he's been with, where he calls the shots.
Yep.
They let him call the shots.
Yep.
He gets what he wants. He gets the team that he wants. And it worked in Miami, 2 championships. It worked in Cleveland with the 1 championship. He already got the 1 in LA. So you can't say that these moves that he calls for don't work. But as soon as they stop working, as soon as things start going wrong, LeBron is a disgruntled employee all of a sudden. He went from being management and the guy that helped build this thing to being a disgruntled employee and being adamant that they improved the roster and being adamant that they trade for Kyrie Irving. Dude, you were adamant that they traded for Russell Westbrook, and look where that got you. Like, it's at some point he needs to, and I saw Stephen A. this morning on First Take, and he said that sources in the Lakers told him that LeBron was hard to be around last year and walked around with like a sourpuss, like dude, you did. He literally makes a bed and then doesn't want to sleep in it. You know what I mean? Well, not literally, I guess, but as close to literally makes a bed and then doesn't want to sleep in it and starts pointing fingers and going, "Why aren't we doing things better?" Dude, you're the GM. He's the GM.
He is, and some people try to, LeBron's not that. He is. I'll say this and I'll stand by this, and we see it with KD, right? Thankfully, you don't see it with Steph Curry because he's not that kind of superstar. But some of these guys, we saw it with Kawhi, right? Go out and get PG-13 or I'm not going to LA. That was part of the deal. You've got to trade a bunch of pieces to bring in Paul George or I'm not going to be happy. I'm not going to be a Clipper. And LeBron, we got to get Anthony Davis, Rich Paul deal all the way, Clutch Sports. We got to go out and get Russell Westbrook. That failed tremendously. And LeBron has been able to really thread this needle. It's amazing. For some people, not for me, not for you. I don't think for anybody in the back either. But for some people, LeBron's been able to thread this needle, make the decisions, because nothing is getting done. Rob Pelinka is not making a move without LeBron's approval.
No.
Straight up. So LeBron knows that. Ipso facto, he is the GM of this team. He okays and nays everything. And Buss is right behind that whole thing saying, yeah, because she knows they need LeBron. So he's been able to thread this needle where he doesn't technically have to pull the bullet in people, or he doesn't have to technically charge into the office of Palinka and say, make this trade or don't make this trade. He gets his point across through Rich Paul, and the point is made. And then when it goes bad, if it goes bad, he absolves himself of any accountability or responsibility, and it's everybody else's fault.
And he puts on this poopy face every time you see him in front of a camera.
And I can't believe some
people.
You got
to do better.
Like, I can't believe some people buy that. Honestly. I don't know how you can buy that. It's clear. When he wants something done, it gets done. When it works out, everything is fine, everything is dandy. When things don't work out, don't expect LeBron to say, oh, well, I wanted Russell Westbrook here and take some accountability.
Right. You never hear LeBron go, whoopsies. My bad.
A Dodgers broadcaster does something he should have never done. Find out what it was next.
Cattles and Ramie. has a new tag team in the afternoons.
You're talking to the original tag team of ugly pukes here.
It's Cattles, it's Ramie.
A couple of things to report. Went to the bathroom real quick during the break.
It's important.
That bathroom near the office is like 150 degrees.
I go to the other one.
Yeah.
I go to the one.
Continue to go to that one.
Okay, good.
Because that one's like 150.
All right, good.
Secondly, I just want to make a public service announcement for anybody who works in the building and who might be responsible for this. But hand sanitizer in the hallway is empty. We got to address that. We got to fill that puppy up.
You have some on you at all times.
Thankfully.
What do you
if I didn't,
what do you need it on the wall for? You literally have it on you at all times.
So I don't have to go through mine so quickly.
Oh, sorry.
Did you say it was by the stairs?
Yeah, the one by the
Put me in a wetsuit. Get me on some slippery stairs.
I think we found our culprit.
Ramie's like, I know Cattles loves his hand sanitizer. Let me just dump this one out.
I use it too. I hit that one every time. Every time I walk past those stairs, I hit that hand sanitizer. But I mean, I don't carry it around with me 24/7. I have some in the car, just in case. I thought after COVID,
always in my pocket.
I thought because during COVID, they put up like the hand sanitizer dispensers at every gas pump because we're all, using our hands and touching the same gas pump. And then they disappeared. I thought that would be one of the things of the new norm. You know what I mean?
All right, let's get back to dirty gasoline.
We just had hand sanitizer pumps everywhere where we all touched the same stuff because that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But you take it a little bit too far.
No, I don't.
A little bit.
Why are you opining on what I am comfortable with?
Because when you put down that schedule and immediately reached for the hand sanitizer, I was like, oh my God. Like you didn't even think about it.
We discussed this already. Thought we've gotten through this.
You didn't even think about it. It was just instinctual.
Do you want to talk about David Vassay?
Let's talk about David Vassay.
Are you going to keep picking on me?
You've been to Milwaukee, right? You told me you've been to Milwaukee.
I have been.
Did you go to a Brewers game when you were there?
No, they were not in town, unfortunately.
Chris, JJ, you guys ever been to a Brewers game?
Nope.
At American Family Field, formerly known as Miller Park? All right. But you've all seen Bernie slide down the slide, right? On TV,
yes.
When the Brewers hit a home run, Bernie will slide down the slide in celebration. I don't think TV does it justice in terms of, A, how high up that slide is.
Okay.
And B, how steep a slide that is. And I don't think that David Vassay
had any
idea how high up that slide is and how steep a slide it is. Cattles, I've seen multiple people do that. And a lot of them will wear like the GoPro while they're going down.
Yes.
It looks terrifying. I would never do it. Every time I see somebody do it, it looks like they're going to fly over the side at that part where the slide kind of curls around.
Yikes.
But David Vassay, I guess, wanted to go down Bernie's slide at American Family Field when the Dodgers are visiting the Brewers. And
why not?
And it did not go well.
David Vassay has been talking for 3 days about going down the slide here in Milwaukee. I've never heard somebody so excited about doing anything, and David did do it today. Watch.
All right, here we go.
Here we go.
Holy crap! Holy crap! Holy crap! Holy crap!
Oh! Oh!
Strike on Muncie. Oh, no. Okay. First, I want to report that he's okay. Dave.
Hi, guys.
Hi, guys. He like slammed into the wall, right? Just
what you can't see is when they turn to him, when the camera goes to him, he has a cast on his right arm because he fractured his right hand and wrist along with 6 ribs.
There you go, you daredevil. 6 ribs.
Yeah.
6 ribs.
So when they said he was okay, it was relative.
He was not okay. It's easy for you to say.
He's okay, not in the hospital or dead. If you're going off that, yes.
Easy for you to say. He's okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, he's all right. Dude's like, I got 6 fractured ribs.
I love when they show the wrist and you can hear it when he's like, hey guys, and he shows his wrist and the cast. They laugh even harder.
Poor guy. Well, is it really a poor guy? I mean, you could say he got what he asked for.
Yeah, he lived the dream, man.
I think they were laughing because, like, like the whole time they're there, it's like, man, I want to get on that slide. I want to get on that slide.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Like
you think
this was his moment.
Slide?
This was his moment, and he went right into the wall. Boom.
Holy crap, holy crap, holy crap.
Right into the wall. Truly amazing stuff.
Never.
6 fractures. I didn't know about the ribs.
6 ribs, dude. Not 1 or 2, 6 ribs.
Oh.
And a fractured right wrist.
He needs to get some milk.
He needs something.
Dude, I've seen that slide go bad for plenty of people. Never that bad. Never seen it go that bad. That was amazing. That was incredible.
Not for him.
And the reveal, like we don't have the visual on the radio, but the reveal when they go to him.
Yeah, we're allowed to show the hand.
He's standing there in a cast. Hi, guys. After they say he's okay.
And you know everybody watching this is laughing at this guy.
Oh, my
and he
God.
knows.
Oh, my God. Good for him for being a good sport, though.
My word.
And I saw he took a picture with Bernie Brewer, the Brewers mascot, today with a sign that said 0 days since last incident.
I mean, if you're going to have a tremendous fail like that in public, right?
Yeah, might as well.
On video, you might as well make the most of it.
Might as well. That was amazing.
You have another story that caught my eye. This young man's name. The
who are we talking about? Which young man?
Guy with the AC, the air conditioning commercial.
Oh, DeColdest Crawford.
There you go.
Yes.
You know, me and him actually have the same middle name when you're asking what my middle name was.
Oh, really?
Oh, really?
So,
yeah, what was it again, Ramie?
To ever do it?
To ever do it.
To ever do it? So this guy's first name is DeColdest.
DeColdest. D-E Coldest. DeColdest Crawford. He's a wide receiver.
And, of course, with the NIL, that means we talked about it with Bijan Mustardson earlier with Bijan Richardson. That means our guy, DeColdest, of course, he's going to cut an NIL deal with an air conditioning company, right?
Perfect.
Here's the spot.
Love this.
I'm so glad we called SOS. RAC is the coldest.
I'm always the coldest. Hey, this is DeColdest Crawford, wide receiver from Louisiana, now playing at Lincoln. When your AC isn't the coldest, you call SOS Heating and Cooling. Their techs don't make commissions, so they give you an honest opinion, fair pricing, and longer warranties than the competition guaranteed. Take it from the coldest.
It sounds like, and it looks like, if you watch a movie and they do like one of those, like it's a fake commercial and it's so over the top cheesy, you know, it's like that's what it sounds like. And feels like,
and that's what they were going for.
Yeah, no doubt.
That's exactly what they were going for.
I'm always the coldest.
I love that. That is so good.
DeColdest Crawford.
JJ and Chris had to ruin it for me. This is like finding out Santa Claus isn't real. So when
Santa's not
real? When sorry, my bad if you have kids in the car.
Spoiler.
He's totally real, kids. I thought because when
not a prediction, it's a spoiler.
When DeColdest Crawford first came on the scene, like he's one of the most highly recruited high school wide receivers, which was when people first noticed his guy's name is DeColdest.
DeColdest.
The report was his middle name was to ever do it. So he was DeColdest to ever do it Crawford. And JJ and Chris today ruined that for me. Turns out he just has some regular ass old middle name.
It would have been magic.
What is it?
Juan.
Lame.
So DeColdest, so it's D-E coldest.
Yeah.
If you're wondering how it's spelled. D-E coldest.
Not to ever do it.
I'm always DeColdest. All right, Ramie's off tomorrow because we can't do 2 shows in a row together. It's a rule. So I'll be alone tomorrow. Of course, with Chris and JJ. So not totally alone.
By the way,
but,
Charles, a fancier name. You were right.
No doubt about it. Ramie, enjoy the stinky, toxic lake.
Thank you. Can't wait.
With your girlfriend. Chris, great job. JJ, great job. Back tomorrow. Cowders and Ramie, Sactown Sports.
Read some literature sure on the subject. You sure? You know we got your back like chiropractic. If that